Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope you all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talk and they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that virtual BS, baby.
What's up, BSers?
Full house.
Full virtual house tonight. Fred, Scott, Ryan, Drew, and James in the house tonight. So we got a lot to cover on this week's show. It's the Ravens making some changes, a bit of an eye-opening change to say the least. It's caused some mixed reactions within the fan base, so we're going to react to that news for sure.
Yeah, and we also, when we're talking about the Ravens, the playoffs, obviously we're not there, but they have been can't miss, especially this weekend. All those games, we're going to break down such an amazing divisional round this week. Some of the best football we've seen in a long time.
One of the best divisional rounds, one of the best playoff rounds in NFL history, in my opinion. The 39 years that I've been alive, it was just an unbelievable weekend. The Terps continue to beef up for 2022 and 2023, and a future star shines bright at the Polynesian Bowl.
Yeah, and in this week's rundown, we're hitting on all the hot button topics. We got some racism in the NHL. We've got retirements, resignations, and a flat-out refusal to get things right, maybe in Fred's opinion. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting rundown for sure. But before we get started with anything, we do want to remind you the team over at MD Crash, they've made some changes. They've now expanded and added more lawyers, handling a much broader spectrum of cases now. Still handling all your auto accidents and injuries at work, of course. But now the team at Bowers, Hassan, and Herndon can help you with family law issues from divorce to custody to even child support. If you want, put this number in your now. Update that MD Crash number, 667-220-6500. Text them anytime or call them anytime for any needs that you may have. 667-220-6500. Get the team at Bowers, Hassan, and Herndon on the case for you. All right, fellas, it is time for some flock talk, but unfortunately, we do want to make sure that we address some terrible, tragic news that happened yesterday. I'll let you go ahead and take the floor, Scott.
Yeah, so I think this, hits maybe for of everybody, it may hit a little closer to Ryan and I than it does, some other people. Our viewers, a few of our viewers out there, it may hit them even closer to them than it does Ryan and I. But for those who aren't aware, you've been living under a rock in Baltimore. It made national headlines as this past week we saw a group of firefighters doing their job in Baltimore City, running into a burning building. It was an engulfed inferno. And unfortunately, 3 firefighters lost their lives almost immediately. A 4th, I believe, still remains in critical condition at shock trauma.
Yeah.
But the reason I said it hits close to home is one of the fallen, Kelsey Sadler Norman. Ryan and I actually graduated with her. She was in our graduating class. I did have a few classes with her throughout, my time at Falston. We both graduated from Falston with her, and I had a few classes with her. I do remember her being, nice, willing to help. Wasn't very close friends or anything with her, but I know people that are and were close friends for a long time with her, and I've seen the outpouring on social media. I know that I texted friend of the show, Jess Blake, who was, her family has been with the Falston Volunteer Fire Department, and I wanted to make sure we got the story straight. Kelsey was in the volunteer cadet program while we were in high school, and that was almost 16 years ago at this point. And
we're old.
Yeah, I know, right? And she actually, right before graduation, I think she said a week before graduation, she got the job in Baltimore City as a firefighter. And so she's been firefighting for 16 years at this point, 15, 16 years. So it just goes to show you the type of person that she was. Again, I didn't know her personally after high school, but just really sad to hear and see the outpouring of support through all of our high school friends and people that we still keep in touch with. I know somebody that is a photographer with their cinematographer with WJZ, and they're going to be doing a special on it. Coming up at some point in the coming days or coming weeks, which is kind of looking at each one of those people that lost their lives, unfortunately. But Ryan, I don't know if you have anything to say or anything there, but I figured it hit close home with somebody that we graduated with.
Yeah, I mean, it like you said, she always seemed like a good person. I don't have any, we weren't very super close, but she was always good people. You have those memories in high school. They're either great or they're really bad. I got no bad memories of Kelsey. We were in school together forever, it seems. My mom remembered the name when I mentioned it to her this morning. So, it's just one of those false nights that, didn't make it. Just one more on the list. And she went out doing what she loved and helping people. So I hope that the family rests easier with that. I know this kind of hit close to Drew as well. Drew was the first one to bring it up in the chat this morning that we should talk about it. If you want to mention your kind of connection to this, Drew.
Yeah, my brother, kind of the same thing you guys were talking about with Kelsey. He's been with the Baltimore City Fire Department right out of high school, so 1997. I don't feel like doing math in my head.
A long time.
So I mean, a lifer basically. He's a lifer. Yeah. So yeah, it always hits close to home. Stories like this, or I don't know you don't really get a lot of tragedies in Baltimore City, but just when I hear bad fire anyway, I'm automatically I'm already locked in. Let me find out about it. You know what I mean? This one, I don't want to say luckily, but luckily my brother, his house is on a completely different side of the city. So his house, they had to kind of fill in for one of the stations that was on the scene for this fire. So, yeah, it's just stories like this always hit close to home because, it could always be him. And that was what Ariel texted me during the day, hey, you need to text your brother and make sure he's not working. And I saw everything. I'm like, well, I don't think he is. And then, you looked on Facebook, couldn't really get in touch with him and looked at Facebook. And luckily it was on,
and Jess, I forgot to mention, too, Jess also chimed in and said Loonies will have a Fill the Boot tomorrow through Sunday for donations. All money collected will be directly given to the local union for the families. Awesome. So if you want to be able to support, go out to Loonies. Maybe Jess can chime in and chat. I don't know if it's just the Loonies up here in Bel Air or if it's all of the Loonies family. Knowing how Loonies is,
probably
I
the one in the
imagine
city,
doing
too.
all of them.
Yeah.
It's probably all of them, yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's tragic, man. I mean, these are people that put their lives on the line for us to protect us, every day. This is, they don't even think twice about going into situations like this. I have nothing but the utmost respect for all firefighters, police officers, first responders, doctors, nurses. I mean,
Except
I've got
for me.
nothing. Yeah, you're borderline.
The real nurse.
You're borderline.
I just want a medical expert for things, though.
Yeah, James.
I just want to chime in. We had a guy at work was like, why would anybody go into a abandoned building? And then you have to think like a firefighter. You don't know if there's a homeless person there, kids, dogs,
Right.
whatever. That's their job. They go in first to check. It's not like, oh, it's an abandoned building, no one's in there, let it burn down. But until you know someone that's in the fire department to really understand what goes on, people don't really know. So it's great to get educated and know what goes on about a firefighter.
Yeah, there's an
Absolutely.
awful lot of people illegally living and staying in the abandoned buildings in Baltimore City. So
Yeah, and that could be a whole different thing of, what should the city do with all those? Most of them are
Yeah,
owned
that's
by
a
the
whole
city
nother discussion.
to Fred's point. But yeah,
90% of the city would be gone if we tore down all abandoned buildings.
yeah.
feels that way driving down some streets.
It
for
does.
Sure.
It does.
Again, just to wrap it up, for those that are there, just unfortunately, sad news again out of Baltimore. Jess, I actually just posted the link in the chat. Their goal is to raise $50,000. So I will personally be gladly making sure that I donate to that. And in the name of Kelsey and the families that unfortunately lost their loved ones. So it just makes you hold those that are closer, close to you, even closer. You never know, but especially those that are on the front lines in any way, shape, or form. So.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers with their families.
Absolutely. Condolences go out to everybody that was impacted by this. It's a tough transition as we got to get into talking football now. So we're talking a little bit of flock talk. You know, we had been talking last week when we had Bobby Trossett on the show, which, again, shout out to Bobby Trossett. Appreciate him coming on the show last week. We talked about what was going on with the Ravens. Why was there this delay in the postseason press conference, right? Well, I think we got some clarity. I think we got a couple of explanations as to why there's been a delay. Before we get into the big discussion news, we'll get into the rumor news first, right? Because it came out today, and I know this is going to make somebody in this room real happy. Jamison Hensley reported that sources have confirmed the Ravens are working on an extension for head coach John Harbaugh. Should be completed in the next few weeks. He's entering the final year of his current 4-year deal. Right now, I mean, when you look at like the total body of the work, what he's done, he's led the Ravens to a playoff berth in 9 of his 14 seasons as coach. Obviously, he guided them to the Super Bowl in 2012, which a lot of people say he inherited that, and, you know, it is what it is. His career record, including playoffs, 148-96, over a 600% winning percentage, 6th best winning percentage among all active coaches with at least 90 games. Also, in 2019, was the NFL Coach of the Year, the only Ravens head coach to ever win that award. So I want to get everybody's take on this and be brief with it because I think a lot of the fans out there know kind of how most of us feel about Harbaugh. But in this situation, you know, where we kind of said this is kind of shit or get off the pot, right? Where the Ravens as an organization needed to make some changes. And whether that was going to be at the top with leadership, starting with John Harbaugh, going down to the coordinators and some of the position coaches, we knew changes needed to be made. What do you guys feel on Harbaugh getting an extension here?
I'll go first. I think I look at it, I was a little surprised by it, given the fact that the other news that dropped, which I know we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think they're making an investment. The only thing that we don't know is, you know, how long is this extension, right? If this is a 5, 6, 7-year extension, then we know he's in it for the long haul. But
Right.
There's a possibility this is only like a 2-year extension of, you know, hey, COVID hit you really bad this year on both sides of the ball. You're making adjustments, and that's fine. So we're going to give you 2 years to kind of get back on track and go from there. Who knows what we will kind of be looking at from that perspective. If they wind up doing anything else in this offseason, who knows? But I think I'm a little surprised at it. I want to know the details of it before I fully give my opinion on the situation.
Ryan, what about you? Were you surprised with this or no?
No surprise whatsoever. Look at all the openings around the NFL. Look at all the jobs that people are trying to fill. If we had him fired today, how many minutes would he be a free agent? I mean,
Right.
he has a new job before the sun goes down. It's he's an
And to
above
that
average
point-
to great coach, depending on your opinion. It's just
To
the way it
that
is.
point, compare his name and compare what he's done to the names that were let go. They're not comparable.
No, they're not. And then also look at the fact of, you know, Sean Payton. Nobody sitting around here is going to sit around saying he's not a great coach, an absolutely all-timer coach. With the personnel he had, he couldn't do anything. In
Right.
fact, to the point where he said, I'm just going to walk away. I'm done. I can't have these people ruining my win-loss record. And so he bailed. Like, this year, he had nothing to work with. You can't hold this against him at all. So why would he not be getting a extension based on the fact of what he had before this with Lamar?
Right. What about you, Drew? Were you surprised?
Not surprised. I'm not surprised. Like I'm with Scott. I thought about that too. Now, if you're telling me you're going into the last year of this deal, hearing that, 'cause I guess I didn't really even know that. Hearing that he's going into the last year of his deal, that's kind of like it's a lame duck situation. You know what I mean? Like, or if his deal goes up, but he wins the Super Bowl, then what? Stuff like that's what you think about with players. It could still be the same way with a head coach. Like, I won a Super Bowl. All right, time to give me $5 million more.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? That could make a whole, but like Scott said, I think that's mainly the thing I'm thinking about is that probably is explained the whole lack of communication with the media for the last couple of weeks. But also, like Scott said, if you find out it's a 2-year deal, then that means it's really a 1-year extension, so you don't have that lame duck situation.
Point of note, by the way, they still haven't announced when they're doing that media day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
It's true. James, what are your feelings on this? I know you're on the opposite end of this a little.
I'm just asking why. Like, he still had one more year left on his deal, I believe. But he must be a hell of a philosopher or a great car salesman, used car salesman at that. Like, I love the guy and all. I think he'd be great, special team coach somewhere. But I think it's time to cut ties. Like the COVID situation, the injuries suck because this year would have proven that it's time to make a change. And hey, change isn't wrong. And Harbaugh, if he would have got fired, I don't think he would be hired this year. Most coaches take like a year off, get refreshed, give time off, and then come back. I think Sean Payton's going to come back in the next year or two when that maybe like in San Diego, if that all fails out there, I think he'd be great out there. But it is what it is. We have to deal with it. And with the offensive coordinator not being addressed, it's just another Band-Aid.
All right. I mean, I understand most of your guys' points on all this, but here's the thing. Like I said, and I've said this since the beginning, prove to me that there is a better option out there to bring in right away, and I'll listen. Like I'm not completely shut off and naive that there's been the lack of playoff success, especially over the last 6-7 years with Harbaugh. But I mean, when you're talking about you haven't paid your franchise quarterback yet, you're still deciding on where that's going to fall. To make a drastic change now and change leadership when you still have that pending, I don't think makes a whole lot of sense. And again, I don't think Harbaugh himself has done enough to run himself out of town. There need to be some changes within the staffing? Yes, and we're going to talk about one of them that just happened. But I don't think Harbaugh is the problem here. And when you ask all the players, I mean, all the players love Harbaugh. There's a few wild cards out there, loudmouths that don't like Harbaugh, but the players have always bought into his program and everything that the Ravens organization is, and a lot of that is represented by Harbaugh. I just don't think that that's a smart move for the Ravens, in my opinion.
Zero is suggesting that James is the new head coach, so we have a better option right here on the show.
So one thing I will say is that I don't know who it was, but somebody just put in that they the excuse of the COVID, it affected everybody. Go look at the numbers. It affected nobody more than the Ravens, period. It did affect teams, but not at the level that it affected the Ravens and the injuries that affected the Ravens' team. It wasn't just COVID.
I was about to say, it wasn't COVID specifically that impacted the Ravens. It was just injuries as a whole and missing players, missing starting key cogs.
Early and often.
Yes.
We had no running backs by week 1.
Yeah, that's like anything that happened in this season, it to me gets a pass just because of the catastrophic injuries. But let me just tell you this, and this is a whole nother conversation, but without Lamar Jackson for those first, what do we have? What do we have him? 10 weeks?
How many wins we have?
11 weeks? We had him for 11 weeks. Without Lamar Jackson, we're in the conversation for the number 1 overall draft pick.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it. Anyway, let's talk about some news and some change that has happened. As they did end up parting. Yeah, this was a surprise when, we heard a coordinator change was coming. I don't think a lot of fans thought that this was the name that we'd hear. Defensive coordinator Don Wink Martindale and the Ravens have mutually agreed to part ways. You know how the Ravens are. They fluff this verbiage up to make things sound good for everybody. What are your guys' first thoughts on this? Were you surprised by the move? I mean, this is a guy that a lot of players, again, he's always been held in high regard, and I'm talking like by big-name players, Terrell Suggs, Marlon Humphrey, the guys that have been the vocal leadership of this defense. Everyone seemed to love Wink. Were you guys surprised by this mood? Go ahead, James.
Go ahead.
When it hit, we're like, oh my God, why is he being fired compared to Greg Roman? But then when I sat back and thought about it, is the years that he's been in here, we had pass rushers. They go other ways. They find their notch and find ways to get to the quarterback. And I just think they want something fresh on the defense to try to do something. Because guys are here, they're putting in the work, and they're not getting nothing out of it. But they go elsewhere, and they're finding, which normally it's the opposite. They go somewhere else, and they're nobody. So I think that was, why they made the change. But I don't know if Wink and Harbs had discussion, and they were on two different sides. So it could have been both ways.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to the sack production being part of this factor. Drew, I want to get your opinion on this because when I look at this and I look at the history of what the Ravens have had from a pass rusher standpoint, right? At one point, this team had Terrell Suggs, Matt Judon, and Zadarius Smith all on the same roster. And Judon and Zadarius Smith never had double-digit sacks with this team. Judon in his first year with New England had 12.5. Zadarius Smith in his first 2 years with the Packers had 12.5 and 13.5. These are guys, again, that never sniffed double digits with the Ravens. And I understand that schematically and philosophically, the Wink Martindale's defense, they use their edge rushers differently than what most teams do. Do you think that that was part of the demise? Do you think that that kind of got into maybe whether it was Harbaugh's psyche or whether it was Bisciotti's psyche, as this is something that we need to see a change in?
Yeah, I have, like, I'm so all over the place with the whole thing, because it's like, I think the big thing with people is, I think we're so anti Greg Roman, or so we're so narrow in on Greg Roman. So once this happens, you're like, wait, what? What are we talking about? Like, something's already been said. Like, but once you kind of dial it back, you're kind of like, okay, like, if these guys are going away and doing something, just to reiterate the fact, like, there's got to be something wrong.
Right.
Because like you already said it. You used to have guys like that would earn deals like Paul Kruger or Pernell McPhee. Like, you go back to like inside linebackers that were behind Ray. Like, oh, they earned this deal somewhere, and it never amounts to anything. And that's,
right.
You're in different eras of football still. So
how dare you talk about Bart Scott that way?
Yeah, 1 year and that's it. Thomas, 1 year and that's
Can't
it.
wait.
Yeah, so for me, when I started hearing a lot about, all right, well, you got like Zadarius Smith and you got Judon. When I would hear that earlier in the season, or it was kind of more towards that November-ish, I'm like, are we really talking this? Like, is that really a narrative? Like, because I still had that narrative in my head, like, people leave here and don't do well. Just because you have one good year doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So, but when you see a guy like Zadarius Smith do it, I mean, he could have did that this year if he didn't get hurt in like the first game. And I still, it still that's why I say all over the place, because like, yeah, Judon did, had 12 sacks, but a lot of that came kind of early. Like the last month of the season, you kind of have to look at the Patriots defense. Like, it really wasn't doing as great as it had been earlier in the year, and getting the turnovers and stuff. So did that, the turnovers help? So I think maybe I don't know if we'll ever get the thing. There must have been between the two, maybe even not all season, but in the last, waning moments of the season, like maybe they were already having discussions. Maybe they were button heads, but they were, cooler heads prevailed. There's enough respect there that obviously it's not going to blow up. They're professionals. That's what you do. But then once the season ended, it was kind of like, we got to talk about this, because I know we all, like, especially me, like with the injuries, you point out the injuries, but there was points where you get to the point where, like, if all you had to do was just hold on to a lead, like you were playing Pittsburgh, you still had Marlon Humphrey, and you couldn't hold on to it. Like, it's these fourth quarter letdowns. Right. Yeah, maybe it's all over the place, that it could be everything, but it's at some point you got to cast the shadow at the DC, and maybe it's just time to go. Maybe it's time for just a whole different philosophy.
Right. And I think that is a big part of it. I think another part, Ryan, and I wanted to get your take on this too, is like, I give him a pass on the production in the secondary from a turnover standpoint, because, again, they were just riddled with injuries. You lost 3 major key cogs at cornerback. You lost your starting safety. They were riddled with injuries. But where I don't give him a pass, and I think is something that was a problem for me, were the communication issues and the struggles that we saw in the secondary. Like, that's a coaching issue to me. And it wasn't just the backups that were having these miscommunication issues. These were Chuck Clark and even, Tavon Young at times, and even Marlon Humphrey at times, guys that thought, somebody would have their back when they didn't. Maybe they're, again, philosophically, maybe they're looking for something, because we have heard that Wink Martindale's defense is very challenging and that it's tough to learn. I remember Earl Thomas, when he first came in, was like blown away by how difficult the playbook was and the terminology was. Maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe they're trying to bring somebody in that has a emphasis on turnovers and something that's maybe a little bit more simplistic.
Well, and that was all fine and good when, 65, 70% of your money was on the defensive side, and you could afford the players that could handle that system, that could run that system and knew the system. But now that you're spending all the money on the offensive side and trying to get these guys to produce, some of them are all pros, but you also have to fill in with just somebody when you're talking about saving money. Maybe they can't handle. Maybe the reason that they're there at that number is, sure, they're athletic as hell, but they can't learn the playbook like somebody that's at that all-pro level that you're used to.
Right.
And if you have a guy like Yannick who has 13 sacks before he gets here and 15 after he leaves and 0 while he's here, like, that's not – you can't have a 0 sandwich. Like,
Right.
If he would have just disappeared out of the NFL, fine, maybe that's on him. But you can't have you be the problem here. Like, the system, again and again, no matter who the player, plug and play, we think that everybody flashed back to the day we found out we signed Yannick. Everyone was, like, doing cartwheels. Like, oh, my God, that's all this team needs is some sacks.
Right.
Got us nothing. Got us absolutely nothing. So
and then he goes to
throw money at it. He goes to Oakland and he dominates again.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's one thing if he falls off
Vegas.
forever, but it can't be only a problem here. I'm sorry, Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. They need to go back to Oakland so they stop getting arrested every 3 minutes.
They just covered it up
I heard
better out there in Oakland.
I heard they're taking cards away next year.
They need to. Drivers only. All right. Well,
Elon Musk tunnels. They already got one out there in Vegas. You guys should take the tunnels back and forth, all right?
right.
So I'm gonna give a quick take on this. Just
go ahead.
When it comes to that whole piece, right? So one of the things that everybody wants to look at is that sack number, but one of the things that people are ignoring is how often this team was kept in a game in the second half by the defense, right? Games like Chargers and the Colts, those games, the defense gave us a chance in the second half by only holding to 1, maybe 2 scores tops.
Yes
Chargers
and no.
was
I mean,
a
there was
dominant performance all
Chargers were
across.
that was all around a great performance. But there were definitely a lot of games, Scott, on the opposite end of that, where the defense kept us in for the first 2 or 3 quarters of the game, but the offense couldn't do anything to stay on the field and couldn't keep the ball moving. That the defense was just so tired and wore down that they ended up giving up a lot of points later on.
It's the defense's fault that they're getting gas because the
No.
offense can't stay out. That's my point, though, is people are looking at those things and saying, I get why the Roman firing happens.
It's not
I
a this
disagree
season
with the way
thing.
that it comes
It's
out.
a last 5 season thing.
I don't
Well,
know that you can make
two-
that argument when they were the top defense for the past 2 years prior to that.
Not in sacks ever.
It doesn't. Sacks, we've talked about it. Sacks is a little bit of a BS number. QB pressures is a bigger.
Not when
QB
you're talking about the
pressure's a bigger number.
quarterbacks that we're going against. That Joe
You
Burrow,
better watch. You're going to end up getting fired from Birdland BS because
Joe Burrow, the only way to
he,
beat
he
him
made
is to
those
break him.
comments.
So, two
Go ahead, Drew.
points. Yeah, there's that, Scott. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but you're also talking about a time when you ran the shit out of the ball down people's throats, and time of possession was so heavily in your favor. That's just to add quick to that. But my original point would be, and I know Fred's going to agree with me, and it isn't just one singular play, but this play rings in my mind that everyone brings up. The Chicago game. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
you were lucky to come back and win it.
Right.
But you left a guy like Chris Restry who was hurt, who was young, and you didn't change your ways. You left him out to dry, and you almost cost yourself the game.
And
If
to
not
that
for a
point,
really good comeback drive by the offense.
And to that point, we saw that a lot this season when the Ravens
Yes.
were so riddled with injuries. We saw 4th, 5th, and 6th cornerback options out on islands by themselves in single man coverage. Like, you should be going to more of a zone defense when you're struggling like that. Like, it's just there were
But you're already
times that I
having
was
communication issues. If you're having communication
Right.
issues in man coverage, it's going to be worse in zone coverage. Are you serious?
No, not necessarily. In man coverage, man, if you got a communication issue and it's that one man, that guy's wide the fuck open. And we saw that happen, 18 times with Jamar Chase. He put up like 600 yards against us in 2 games.
Get used
It was
to that,
rough.
bro. Get used to that.
But yeah, no, I know. I know. We'll talk about that
Here comes
later.
the
We'll talk
pain.
about that game. But here's the
You should
thing.
get used to that, but that's the extra thing, and that proves our point even more. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Fred.
No, you're fine.
Watch that Tennessee game. That was the thing with the playoff game this week. I'm seeing these pass rushes and it's amazing. And then you look at that Tennessee game, they sacked that kid. They're going to get that kid killed if they don't change their offensive line. We've said that enough. They sacked that kid 9 times, and yeah, they still lost because Tannehill sucks. They sacked that kid 9 times. We are going to have if you're worried about Chase for the years to come, and you're worried about Burrow for years to come. You are
Gotta
going
get to the
to have to
quarterback.
get to that kid and put him on the ground.
And
He
that's
holds the ball a
ultimately
lot, too.
yes. That's
Yeah,
ultimately why.
there's
That's
a
all.
lot of caveats for that happening, but that's what you're gonna have to start getting sacks. It's just
That's ultimately why he shredded us. I mean, he had all day to pick apart our defense, and again, with a AAA secondary out there, because we had no pass rush. I mean, he had all day to pick us apart. So here's the thing. I'm not I was never pounding the pavement that Wink had to go. I don't think any of us were pounding the pavement that Wink had to go. I think once this happened, I think we all just kind of took a realistic, approach to understanding why. And I think we all have justified the reasoning behind why.
Yeah, Wink will be fine.
Here's the thing.
He will be.
This move only is a smart move if the replacement is the right replacement option, right? You can't just backfill or make a change for the sake of making a change. That doesn't fix anything. It's got to be the right change, right? So that's the next task that the Ravens have to figure out is, does that come from within? Does that come from external? I mean, right now, internally, I know they've got a couple of guys on the radar. Anthony Weaver, who was a former player for the Ravens. He's new to the staff. I think last year was his first year. Chris Hewitt, another guy that's been out there. Internally, so they have a few options there. But what we heard over the last couple of days, externally, they have requested interviews with two guys. Both of these guys are currently secondary coaches. One, Joe Witt with the Cowboys. And we all know what the Cowboys did this year. They had a plus 14 turnover margin, 26 INTs on the season. We had 9, by the way. We had 9 interceptions. They had 26. They led the league in both statistical categories. And then also Chris Richard, who, if I remember right, I think he was the defensive coordinator for the Seahawks. And then the Seahawks went with a change, and then he's been the secondary coach for the Saints for the last year or two. So again,
which
both
is a really good unit.
Right. But my point in bringing this up is both of the interviews that they requested were secondary guys. So all the points that we're making about the secondary having issues and the communication being an issue, well, obviously it sounds like they're trying to make a philosophy change and a specialty change. And if your defensive coordinator is now going to be a specialist in the secondary, I think that approach on the surface makes a lot of sense. What do you guys think?
Don't all jump at once.
That's the problem being virtual. You don't know when someone's going to start talking.
Scott,
go ahead. I'll jump in here. So I look at it and I don't. If it's a culture problem, you can't continue to put a fire out from within the house, right? So it may be Wink, and one of these guys may have an idea that they've been talking about to Wink and Harbs, and it was never implemented for whatever reason, and that's quite possible. But usually when that happens, if you're saying that there's culture change or there's something that needs to happen from within, you don't then hire from within because those people, in a sense, are a little tainted from that aspect.
They're products of their former coordinator.
Exactly. You're product of your environment to an extent. So I think for me, I look at it, and I know we're going to talk about some of the external candidates a little bit more, but one of the ones that I think I would love to have, not going to happen, a guy like Brian Flores, right? Could come in, have a different culture set, be able to come in and really set it up.
It's a bit of a pipe dream, but yeah, I think he's going to end up
dream.
being a head coach again somewhere.
There was one that was floated out, and it had me scratching my head, and I was like, I could see it happening, but I don't know because I don't know that we could pay this person enough money to walk away from what they're doing. Rex Ryan. Bringing him back.
Nah, I don't want to retread.
It'd be the same issue with, I think it's along the same lines of Wink. Wink came from that, you know what I mean? He came from that
same
Ryan
tree.
being there this year.
So
it's like a lot of those guys that are under Wink are the same kind of guys that were under Rex, and then you're in the same situation you were years ago.
Bro, they got OnlyFans now. He's got enough foot pictures to look at for the next 10 years.
Wikipedia.
I don't know. I mean, my whole thing with this is, like I said, it's got to be the right guy. Like you said, I don't think it should come internally. I think it should come externally for all the reasons that you mentioned, Scott. I think you made a great point there. I like the approach of going with somebody with a secondary background. I think that makes sense for this defense. Like you said, Brian Flores, I think it's a pipe dream. That'll never happen. But what I think is interesting, and I think Garnett or somebody brought it up in the chat room, this has been a defense that's primarily been a 3-4 defense for a really long time, right? And if you look at what the Cowboys have been doing out there, they run that 4-3 or like a 4-2-5 defense. I think that's more what this roster currently is geared towards. I mean, you got a ton of money invested in that secondary. When healthy, I think a 4-2-5 and getting more athletes out there, more speed out there, to your point earlier, Drew, about Joe Burrow and all the targets and everything that he has out there, all the wide receivers. This isn't the old ground and pound AFC North that we're used to. This is a very different division than what it used to be. And I think having that extra athleticism, that speed, those guys in the secondary, I think makes a lot of sense for a defensive philosophy change.
That's strike zero.
Yes and no, Fred. There's an awful lot of good running backs here. You got Najee Harris, you got Chubb, you got Hunt, you got Mixon. There's an awful lot of running backs that can dominate.
Mixon is a glorified wide receiver that just so happens to play running back. Najee Harris,
still a man.
Najee Harris is a very good running back, but we don't know what that offense is going to look like under a new quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, what the fuck? Chubb and Hunt don't do you any good if they're sitting on the bench and not getting utilized.
Yeah,
they don't
I
run
don't know.
them.
We got so lucky that they didn't play them at all against us.
It's not just us. They don't in general.
That was the worst coach I've ever seen.
Cleveland became Cleveland.
Cleveland needs to fire their coach next. What the fuck is he doing?
Sorry, Craig. Yeah, it was your comment. But no, I think that the going again from that 3-4 to 4-3 or 4-2-5, I think makes a lot of sense. Drew, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I can't help but think, like, if you're gonna move on from Wink, then you need to completely go out of house. Like, if that means the whole defense, every position is changed, I mean, so be it. Like, something's gotta give. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna go this extra mile, you're not gonna go and just go with Wink 2.0.
Right.
Well, what's the point? Then you might as well just let Wink go one more year and see if it was certain situations happening that he couldn't control, or if it just wasn't working anymore. So I don't really have an answer for it, because I never really know who to bring in until they're in. I see how things are going, then I can like have comments and opinions on things. So like, I can't tell you that the guy from Dallas is going to be any better than the guy, Zimmer,
right,
or something like that. But I can't help but, like, and I said it on Saturday, I can't help but watch what happened when Tennessee sacked that kid 9 times and think you're not gonna have a good pass rush. It has to happen. That's what, you know what I mean? Like, I think you adjusted your team to Big Ben years ago. It happens. If that's a guy that you're gonna deal with for the next decade and a half, you've gotta attack that.
Yeah, and Garnett actually follows up here. He says, Madubuike is a 3-tech. Broderick Washington's a 3-tech. Calais Campbell's a natural 3-tech. 4-3 is just fitting to the personnel we have when you really look at it. That's absolutely true. Calais Campbell's obviously still a wild card, whether he's even going to play or come back, and if the Ravens can even afford him. Yeah, I personally think they're gone too. They just can't afford that kind of.
Coming back.
Yeah. And again, I think some of those decisions too will depend on who they bring in as a coach, because again, depending upon their system will depend on the personnel that they need. Go ahead, Ryan.
I got a question on Wolf, because I saw this just recently. Why in the hell did he just get hip surgery?
Yeah,
he missed the whole season. Why didn't he get it 18 weeks ago?
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
But I'm with Ryan. If he was trying to avoid it, we found out it was like week 10 when he's not coming back at all.
Right. Well, then have it then.
We found out then, like he said.
He still had 9 more weeks, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's just really confusing to me. I'm like,
as much as I
like the Orioles wall. Why did we wait? Just do it.
As much as I like Derek Wolf in that first year, I think he's just collecting a paycheck at this point. You know what I mean? I don't see the buy-in. I don't see, like, even on social media. I know it's stupid. You shouldn't judge somebody on social media. I don't see like the camaraderie and the posts and stuff that he used to make on social media. I don't know. I feel like he's making just collecting a paycheck at this point.
Like that wide receiver at the Saints that made Sean Payton retire.
So one thing I did want to ask, right, and we talked about the message from Harbaugh. Did anybody find the message from Harbaugh? The fact, that it came from Harbaugh, not from the organization itself, not from EDC, anybody like that, and then the way that the message was worded, anybody feel like there was some crypticness to it? Like it was weird.
It's typical Harbs and it's typical Ravens. Like I didn't see anything out of the norm with it. That seemed to be what they do. Harbaugh, he doesn't try to put anybody. He even did this with Marty Morningwig. As bad as Marty Morningwig was, like he gracefully bowed him out of town just to not put a black mark on his resume that if he wants to get a job elsewhere, he can. This is just kind of the Ravens' MO, at least in my opinion.
And yeah, the dumping it on a Friday at 6:00.
Yeah,
that's very usual.
All right, so moving on, we got to talk a little bit about another potential, another move and another potential follow-up move to this, one that's going to make Ryan happy here. The Ravens ended up re-signing former 2021 fifth-round draft pick Ben Mason back to the
Sucks.
The former Michigan alum, the guy that we all were scratching our head at the draft, like. If you're going to pick a Ben Mason, cool, do that as an undrafted free agent. Picking him in the 5th round, I literally don't think anybody even had them on their board through 7 rounds.
Just another attempt to try to get Harbaugh back at Michigan. Whatever.
Whatever it might be.
It was just a brother. I got a great guy for you.
It's part of that whole evaluation.
Yeah, you that now, Ryan.
Just wait. There'll be another Michigan boy. If his brother leaves and goes back to anywhere else, there'll be no Michigan draft picks. And if he stays at Michigan, there'll be a Michigan draft pick. It's how it works.
Well, this draft pick, it's still, regardless of what Harbaugh says, I mean, this falls on Eric DeCosta, and we give Eric DeCosta a lot of credit for some of the good picks that he made, but this was a total head scratcher. It never made any sense. But either way, he is back to the Ravens after leaving the Ravens and going to the Patriots and sat on the Patriots practice squad for a few weeks. Back with the Ravens. The reason I even bring this up, because obviously there could be a follow-up move to that, and that could be that Pat Ricard has played his last down as a Raven, which I think a lot of us going into the offseason thought that was a real possibility anyway, just because contract-wise, were they going to be able to pay him? We've already seen it happen with Kyle Juszczyk before. The Ravens
good for another decade.
But the Ravens value the position. They don't value the money at the position. And once somebody has earned the kind of all-pro status that he has earned, because he's the best fullback in the league, best utility knife in the league, the Ravens got to trim the fat somewhere, and I think that this is one of those positions that they just don't value as much as others.
Yeah, but do you trim the fat at a position that you have a guy as all pro as he is for a guy that you literally took a flyer on last year and then threw the flyer out? I mean, this guy, you let the guy go. You said we're not even willing to sign you to the practice squad. That was one of the things I did have.
No, he was on the practice squad. I think the Patriots picked him up off the
New
practice
England
squad.
picked him up as soon as they had to do that cut. We got to cut him to go to the practice squad, and he never made it to the practice squad.
But then they
had no use for him. So go figure.
Right, but then I was going to say,
if
didn't
Bill
they wind
Check
up
can't
cutting
figure
him?
it out,
Because if they wound up cutting him, the Ravens didn't go over and pick him back up either. Right, so it's one of those things that you got to take a step back and look and say, Project Pat, what he's been able to do, the versatility he's been able to provide you. At some point, I get the guys outpricing themselves, but you just potentially lost your center, as we think it is. Right, you've now lost the guy that's also helping to protect your quarterback and protect your running backs, right, and create holes for them. You better come back with a great way to do it. And Ben Mason, to me, is not that guy.
I think Pat can play center.
Unless he's completely changed. But did he sign a NFL contract or did he sign a practice squad contract?
Who, Ben Mason?
Mason.
It's one of those futures deals. Where,
it's a future deal.
Okay.
He can't get picked up by somebody.
But
in February, it's him.
Here's my thing, and to I think it was Nick Short's point in the chat room. It's not hard to be one of the best fullbacks when really only like 5 teams even use a fullback anymore. But that's one thing. Hold on. I don't think you're going to miss Ricard as a traditional fullback. That's not where the Ravens are going to miss him. Where they're going to miss him is in his versatility, his ability to line up as a tight end when we were riddled with injuries at tight end, and his ability to even flip-flop and play defense if they needed. They haven't done that in a while, but if, God forbid, injuries hit defensive line and they needed somebody to flip over, they could do that with Ricard. I think those attributes are what you're going to miss with Ricard. But again, it's a business. It comes down to a salary cap thing. They got to make decisions. You're going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul somewhere because other guys have earned contracts, much bigger contracts, and are going to get those contracts. That's one piece I think that's expendable.
Got Drew.
Something to touch on because I've seen it a couple of times in the chat about how come we don't have cap or why we keep hearing they have don't have any money. where you're looking at guys like Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams that are making a lot of money that probably won't be here next year. Jimmy
Right.
Smith's making a lot of money that probably won't be here next year. Who knows what's up with Tavon Young and his contract situation? I mean, Marcus Peters' cap hit's going to be something like 15 million. So I don't know if they
Yeah.
restructure that, but if that stays at 50 million and he's here, that's conceivably that's a high. Like there's a lot of high contracts that should conceivably come off the books, like not paying Ricard or if Bozeman walks. You know what I mean? That you have to factor in. That the cap looks bleak now, but I mean you can see a huge jump once those guys are walk away or cut.
Yeah, there's a lot of roster roulette, we'll call it, that the Ravens can do to clear up cap space, keep guys around longer, spread the money out. We all know how this works. It happens every freaking year. So we don't know exactly if this spells the end. It just smells that way for me. Why would you bring a guy like Ben Mason back? Why did you ever draft him in the first place unless the plan was to eventually replace Ricard?
Drew probably knows this. Where's the steroid meathead they brought in the year before? Is he WWE somewhere?
He's the NXT champion.
He's what?
He's in
He
WWE.
looks like
champion.
I figured he was a wrestler. That's why I asked Drew.
Nerd out. He's wrestling.
I knew it.
WWE, and because his dad and his uncle were the Steiner brothers, and dude is legit. Like they were really good. He's fucking like he's like picked it up like that.
Right.
That's so funny. I was a wild guess, Drew. No look up, no thing. I had no idea he was actually wrestling, but he just felt like that guy that was not going to stop lifting weights.
He made it to the practice squad, and then like they never, it didn't go anywhere. And it was like almost immediately he was just like he's got that fallback plan.
Jacob. So Jacob chimes in. Jacob chimes in. He says, "We need better cap guys. We almost never have money." That's not having money isn't necessarily a negative thing. Every team has to spend up to a certain point of the salary cap. It's in how you use that money and how you spend it. And the Ravens have always been right in the thick of things with the occasional down year here and there. I don't think that they're bad with managing the cap. I think they're one of the more creative teams to how they spend the cap. They're just in a situation right now, again, where they've got a lot of players that have played up their value. We just paid Mark Andrews top money, and look how that paid off, right? He was top 2 tight end this year, and he wasn't number 2, right? Like, so that money that we're spending on him was justified, and hopefully the money that we're going to spend on Lamar will be justified like that. And when you keep tackle like Ronnie Stanley, you pay him, and then a week later he gets a fucking knee injury that keeps him out for a year and a half. Like, these are things that are unpredictable. That just so happen to be bad luck for the Ravens. That's not a
played
cap
5
thing
minutes for $60 million or something. Like it's insane,
right? Garnett says overvalue average players. They overvalue average players, but they overvalue players that bring more, again, versatility. And I saw your comment that you said that Boyle is getting paid to be a tight end too. Yes, but how did that work out? Because Boyle wasn't available this past year because of his injury, right? So that's where Ricard's values even more, because you do have him in the fold that he can play that tight end when somebody like a Boyle goes down. But I understand that he is expendable, and in my opinion.
The other thing about the cap too, right? This year we went into the year with like $5 million left in cap space.
Right.
The average is 5 to 6. It was 5 to 6 going into the year. I think the largest one that a team had was like 7 or 10 or something like that, and it was the Jags or the Dolphins or somebody like that. So it was
Dolphins.
It was So it was a team that most people expected to have a ton of cap space because they weren't going to spend it. They did the minimum. That's it. But we're usually right in the thick and in the middle with how much we have left at the beginning and the middle of the year, which is smart because you're being smart about your cap. That if you say, if we get to the end of the season and we're one piece away, or towards the trade deadline, and we're one piece away, or we need one sign away, you can do it, right? You can actually go out there and get somebody at a decent value and not then go over the cap.
Go ahead, James.
You're gonna have the time.
So it's funny. We talked about this at work. We had a guy that is a Steelers fan that said, "Oh, the Steelers have like the third or second highest cap money, blah blah blah." So I looked it up. Miami has the number 1. Then the Chargers have number 2. Jacksonville is number 3. Cincinnati's number 4 because everybody's a rookie. But to us, we're on the board at 20, and after that, it has us in the average. So when you're in the average, that's good. That's where you want to be. It's in the average. Above average is all the teams like Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, Washington. All these teams are trying to be where we're at. And having $10 million, that's like the average I heard. by the standards of this. So they know what they're doing over there.
Yeah, I agree. David did want to ask you, James, do you think we have too much loyalty in players? Loyalty to players.
Yeah. We
Especially
sign
kickers.
guys. Nah, that's an inside joke, but we didn't use them how we should have. Like,
it was a joke the whole time.
yeah, but we do use like pay guys like Jimmy Smith. I'm sorry, I love the guy. He should have been gone 2 years ago.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm just tired of like they bring in Thomas. He was great, but when he was the alpha male, gone. So I'm hoping that John has one more year. That's clean slate. But also, which is weird too, Bashotti has been out of all this for the last I think year and a half. Before he used to be involved in all this. Like now he when EDC took over, he went to the side and said, "Let's see what you can do." So I don't know what's going on there too.
Right. All right. Well, another story I just want to bring up before we move on to the NFL playoffs, because we got a lot to talk about with the playoffs, because what a crazy weekend that was. Last story I wanted to bring up, and this is more just because I read it and I had to read it 3 times. I'm like, is this real? Is this real life? Am I reading the right year here? Brian Billick has joined Arizona State as an offensive analysis advisor to the head coach.
Don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
They're building a powerhouse over there.
They are. ASU staff now has Herm Edwards, Marvin Lewis, and Brian Billick together. They must be putting on a hell of a run for the 2004 Super Bowl at this point. Brian Billick hasn't been a coach for 17 years, I think, at this point? It's been since...
I think he's allowed to now coach. Before he was still on the contract. If he took a head coaching job, he couldn't get some of his money. That's why he did the NFL Network analyst, because it was a conflict of interest. But this could be the Ravens minor league team to get players to come and fill in when we get injuries.
Now, Jim Harbaugh wasn't working there.
Alex says he was never an offensive guy. Actually, that's not true. He was
Minnesota
the whole reason he was brought here was because of the offense that he put together in Minnesota when he had Moss and Chris Carter and Dante Culpepper and
let's be honest,
Robert
I
Smith.
could have coached that offense. Holy God, the players they had.
Yeah, just throw the ball up and go deep.
Throw it deep. Moss will catch everything.
Yeah, two Hall of is Cunningham in the Hall of Fame? Two Hall of Fame.
No.
He should be
If they
not.
triple Moss,
He
throw the
should be,
slant to
yeah.
Carter. Done. This is the best offense ever.
Yeah, exactly. Did that shock you to hear that, Scott, about Brian Billick coming back to coach or be an advisor?
I guess no, because I've always seen and watched the Ravens video breakdowns that he does. He is good at breaking down film, looking at different pieces, and I think that's what they brought him in, obviously, as an offensive analyst, because he can look at things from a outside perspective. When you're, he's not an offensive coordinator. None of these guys are in coordinator type roles. They're in positions that ASU is saying, we'll pay you a little bit of money and just drain the knowledge out of the three of you. It's genius if you think about it, because they're looking at it saying, we're going to go through and we're going to get all these guys that have all this knowledge and start to be able to put together an organization that can make runs at championships. If the knowledge translates, that's going to be the key, is can the coaching actually translate it over?
Do they get a championship or do they go to a nursing home first? What happens? Let's see. Go ahead, Ryan.
It's a boys club, man. This is just one of the coaches on Arizona State right now comes from the Brian Belichick tree. I don't have to. Billick tree. You don't have to look very far.
Belichick.
Belichick. Really, they're both great. They comes from the Brian Billick tree. Somebody comes from the Herm Edwards tree. This is just paying it forward. This is, I gave you a shot when you were 27 years old and you were broke. Why don't you throw me a couple $1 million from the NIL deal you got going on, and I'll analyze your tape for you for 8 minutes a year for $30 million. This is just the way things work nowadays. If your goal is to become a head coach at a Power 5 level or NFL level, I hope your daddy was one, because you're not getting in otherwise. All right, just calm down with the dreams. This is a boys' club, always been a boys' club. Hell, even the refs is a boys' club. Hockley's Jr. is coming out here. You can't get into this kind of money unless you were birthed into it.
David, I liked you up until this comment. Don't be putting this bad juju out in the air. He says Burrows, Jackson, Rodgers, Mayfield next year is going to be a beast, whoever wins the AFC North. I do not want to see Aaron Rodgers anywhere near the AFC North or the AFC in general.
Mayfield would not stay at the Browns if that ends up being his combination. They'd be like, we need him gone.
No, I'm not going to go off on a tangent about the Rodgers thing, but I don't think necessarily the Rodgers is going to the Steelers, and every Ravens fan wants to fear that. One, he's going to play his goddamn drama game all goddamn offseason and stay in Green Bay, or he's retired.
It must be a Green Bay thing, because fucking Favre did the same thing for a decade.
Yes, yeah. So there's that. And Tomlin's already come out and said pretty much, like, I think, like, our next quarterback needs to be it has to be someone that is mobile. Granted, I know Rodgers can trump that shit, but he is looking at a guy that's in his division that's really great at running the ball, and then Burrows, who's really good. You know what I mean? Like, he's looking at these young quarterbacks. He's not going with an old guy for a 1 or 2 year Band-Aid. You know what I mean? Like, Tomlin's not that kind of coach.
They let Mike Vick play there, so why not Watson?
Something like that, something like that would be more feasible to me than Rodgers.
You let Mike Vick on your team, why would you not try that shot? It is what it is.
I mean, dogs and women are two different things. But, yeah, I see.
I mean, court of public opinion, both those things kind of blew up.
Yeah, it's true.
In fact, I think the dogs might have got more attention, to be perfectly honest.
All right, fellas, let's move on to the NFL playoffs and what was one of the most historic weekends in NFL history, in my opinion. It's just sad that this was a divisional round. Like, so many games in this game could have easily been conference championships, could have been Super Bowls. I mean, yeah, the AFC and the NFC thing doesn't add up, but just the intensity of these games, how they all came down to the last plays, down to the wire. Unbelievable. Is this the greatest playoff round ever, in your guys' opinion?
Hands down. I mean, every game except for one. Well, every game was decided by one score.
Right.
Every game was decided, except for one, was decided by 3 points, kicking the away team, kicking for the win, right? And it came close with the Bills and the Chiefs. We'll get into that later in the debacle that is and the conversation that surrounds that. But when you look and you say, this is what playoff football should look like. You shouldn't have blowouts in playoff football. It should be the top teams going at it, and that's really what we're kind of seeing right now.
Drew?
Yeah, it's gotta be. It's gotta be one of the most, because you might have, like, think of, like, other divisional, like, you might have, oh my god, that game was awesome. Like, you have that one game, or maybe two, not all four, to be, like, this close.
Yeah.
To be walk-off field goals, to be, like, scoring like 100 points under 2 minutes. Like,
right.
You don't get stuff like, and it's one of those things, like, that's why football just is fucking king, because you get shit like that, and it's just like, you're in awe watching stuff like that just happen, and you're just like
literally glued to the TV all weekend.
I like, especially that
we'll talk
Bills
about
Kansas City game. Like, I was watching the first half a little bit. You got the kids ready for bed. It was halftime. I'm like, I'm gonna go down and play some PlayStation. This game will probably be like, it is what it is. And I'm getting, like, it's probably like, I think I'm like late third quarter. I'm like, what am I doing? I can just watch it on my phone and still play the video game. All right. And then I'm like, you get to
rough
that,
life you're living, Drew. Rough life.
I know, right? You get to that. It was like Tyreek Hill scores his touchdown. I'm like, nah, it's got to go on the big screen.
What about you, James?
Go, James.
About what? About the whole playoffs?
Greatest playoff weekend ever?
I always think playoff football is the best, dude. Like, you're not going to get, like, a Thursday night game on these playoff teams. They're all good. I wish I could sit down and watch all of them, because it's the best. And it was they put it all out there.
Right. All right, well, let's talk about the first game. Ryan, I'll let you kick this one off. It's the Bengals-Titans. Bengals pull it off 19-16. This was all hyped up because it was the return of Derrick Henry. Titans have home field advantage. They're the number 1 seed. Henry, though, was pretty ineffective in this game. I think he only had like one run of 9 yards. Outside of that, he really didn't do much to be an impact. Ryan Tannehill, 3 INTs in this game. including the late one with 20 seconds left to go that allowed, Cincinnati to get in a field goal range and kick the game winner. What'd you think of this game?
Yeah, the Miami Ryan Tannehill came back out. Like, we haven't seen the Ryan Tannehill this bad in a long time. I mean, I know he was below average this year, but I just thought that was because Henry disappeared. And, like, how can you continue to look the same when they know you can't just train stick them, not even truck stick them with Derrick Henry back there? It's kind of surprising he was that bad, but it also is even more surprising that with, 9 sacks, Burrow could come back and get this win. It's kind of unreal, like we said, that they already blew out this kid's knee. They're continuing to get him beat up, and yet we still saw the season we saw out of him with Jamar Chase, with Higgins, with all the weapons, that he's getting the ball out. He's getting the ball downfield somehow behind a papier-mâché offensive line.
Scott, what was your take on this weekend's game, Bengals-Titans?
I thought it was a pretty good game. It wasn't the high flying that I thought the Bengals would be in this game. I think several of these games were not nearly as high scoring as we all thought they were, and as we made our predictions last week. But
I'll just say I got the game right. I'll just say I was one of the two in this room that got it right.
But I was the other one. But yeah, the game itself I think was pretty good, and I think you saw that The kicking in this game played a role, right? You had McPherson, hitting the game-winning 52-yarder, but you had, I believe, earlier in the game, the Titans kicker. Forgive me for forgetting his name, but missed I want to say it was like a 32 or a 34-yard field goal.
Yeah, Randy Bullock.
Yeah, so he missed one, but McPherson showing up in this game with 4 total in the game, and then despite Burrow getting sacked all day long, they were able to put together some pieces of offense, just not as much as you would like to see.
I think we might be having conversations in the future, James, about McPherson getting Justin Tucker like type treatment or Justin Tucker type deal. This guy's going to be a problem for a long time. To Drew's point, man, he's
pump the brakes. No,
I understand he's a rookie, but he's got he's got a lot of the same mannerisms. He's got the same confidence level. There was reports that he told the sideline, "We're going to the AFC Championship," before he went out there and kicked the ball. I like that kind of confidence. Ryan and I are familiar with that with Anthony Pecorello with the Terps, and obviously Justin Tucker. So.
Does he sing opera though?
No. So
I don't know if Royal Farms is a thing in Cincinnati or not.
The Colts kicker's got more confidence than anybody in the world, but he's not very good.
Let James talk. Go ahead, James.
Hey, Fred, you forgot. He had so much confidence. He thought the one that he missed, he made.
True.
So that's a hell of a confidence, dude. Celebrating. Everybody's like, what the fuck you celebrating for? You just missed.
Wide left.
So you gotta respect that. That.
Nah, that's true.
I also got this game right too. The Cincinnati. I called it, and I'm just letting you know Cincinnati's beating Kansas City this week. So I know I'm already taking that one.
I'm gonna have to go look at the tape. I don't think you
did
Cincinnati, did he?
He did because he started talking about Tennessee lost to the Jets, and I'm like, well, so did Cincinnati.
Yep.
James, is that an even money bet against the Chiefs?
You write on a bar napkin there? What was that?
That's even money.
Nice. All right, well let's shift gears.
It's a bet bill.
I might have to play house on that one if we're getting even money.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But I will say this before we wrap up really quick on this game. To your point, Burrow was sacked 955 times in this game. I still stand with what I said going into the draft last year about the Bengals. They need to draft nothing but offensive linemen with all their picks. They've got a clusterfuck of talent at the skill positions. You've got to protect your franchise quarterback in Burrow, because if he can play this kind of level and this good without protection,
they're going running back, tight end, top 2 picks. Book it.
It's the Bengals. More than likely they will. But we got to see what happens here.
$60 million in cap money.
Yeah, that money's going to dwindle really quickly in the next couple of years when they have to pay some of these guys.
I understand that, but
right now, capitalize while you can. Capitalize while you can. Spend that money wisely.
Yeah. All right. So
offensive lineman.
Let's shift gears to the game that had some surprises to it, with not being, again, not a high scoring game considering what came out. 49ers.
I lost $1,000 on this goddamn game.
Why you betting against Debo, Fred? I told you this from the beginning.
I know.
49ers take on the Packers in the frozen tundra. 13-10 was the final here. Fred, we'll let you start since you went last with this last one. What was your take on this game? Especially, again, frozen tundra, we thought the weather was going to play a role. It looked like it was going to, and then it didn't.
I went with pretty much all upsets in my picks. I took the Bengals where nobody thought the Bengals were going to win. The Rams, nobody thought the Rams were going to beat Tom Brady. The Bills, nobody thought I took the Chiefs. I'm sorry. The Packers was the one layup that I thought I had. This is a game that I thought there wasn't even going to be a question about. I know the 49ers play, a physical game of football, but I don't believe in fucking Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think the frozen tundra played a factor in this game to the negative of Green Bay, which was kind of surprising to me because, at the beginning of the game, Green Bay was moving the ball pretty effectively, the first quarter or two. But as that game progressed and it got colder and colder, you saw the field physically change. You go back and watch highlights of that game. You watch the first quarter and a half. The field looks like it's in good shape. It looks like they're getting traction out there. But by midway through, I'd say the third quarter, it was literally a frozen tundra out there, and they just weren't moving the ball effectively. Obviously, special teams has been a fucking thorn in the side of Green Bay all year. They were the 32nd ranked.
It looked like the Terps out there, baby.
They did. And in this game, that was ultimately the decision. You lose a game by 3 points, 13-10. You had a blocked field goal at the end of the first half, a blocked punt touchdown to tie the game. Only had 10 guys on the field during the game-winning field goal attempt. How the fuck do you screw that up? Special teams was literally special in this game. So, unfortunately, that was ultimately why they lost this game.
By the way, what's worse, 12 men on the field or 10 men on the field?
I don't know. I don't know at this point.
I was trying to give them the benefit of doubt.
Closer.
I was trying to give them the benefit of doubt that 11th man was standing there trying to return the field goal. I don't know. I've never seen that angle, but I was just hoping that it was it's a long kick. Maybe we can get a return touchdown. I don't know. Who knows?
Right.
James, what was your take on this 49ers-Packers game?
I thought it was money in the bank. I had a good parlay with it. But, they brought up Aaron Rodgers 0-4 in the playoffs against the 49ers, blah, blah, blah. But I hate when people rag on Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't play special teams. He doesn't fucking punt. It is what it is. The weather was fine. It all fell into the 49ers because I'm kind of superstitious. I was in my car when they were winning 10-0. I'm like, all right, cool. I go inside, take a shower, come down, they're fucking losing. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I had to rewind it and see the fucking block punt. And I was like, this game's over. It's fucking done. And then Debo, this guy can never stay on the field. When I have him on my fantasy team this year, he's like the next fucking Barry Sanders out there. No one can tackle his ass, dude. I'm like,
and I don't know what he did on the field. I don't know if he hurt his hip or what happened. I don't know. I didn't follow up afterwards.
Him and Kittle both limped off late.
I don't give a fuck. It's cold out there. They're gonna get hurt, and they're from California.
But he still came out hurt and made great plays. Obviously, he was a big factor in this game.
And Ayuk hasn't woke up yet. Ayuk's going to wake up. Jimmy G is going to replace Tom Brady as Super Bowl champion after he replaced him in New England.
All right, so we got to talk about the third game, Rams, Buccaneers. This is a game, I told you, I've been high on the Rams all year. The Buccaneers, I thought, with the injuries that they had, especially with, Goodwin going down and not really having that third wide receiver out there, or even that second go-to wide receiver. Mike Evans.
He ran off like a crazy person.
Well, yeah.
He's wearing a Ravens jersey and saying he'll only play for Lamar.
Right.
He just wants a job.
But it's funny because during this game, I was down at Five Iron Golf, and we were watching it on the TV there in the booth. And
hashtag not a sponsor.
Right. Rams had jumped all over the Buccaneers in this game. It's 27-3 in the third quarter, and everybody's like, this game's a wrap up. I'm like, do you realize this is fucking Tom Brady, right? We've been through this before. He did this in the Super Bowl to the Falcons, literally pretty much the same exact score almost.
And he was pissed when he got hit and didn't get the call, hit to the face, his lips bleeding, a little bit of a bad call there. But a pissed off Tom Brady is a dangerous Tom Brady.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially
so I knew
the iPads.
I knew the game
Surfaces.
wasn't over, but like, so they had gotten it down to like a 2-score game. I think they were down 14 and our time had ran out. So like we were getting our clubs and wrapping up and we went out to the car and we got in the car. By the time we got out there, I get a message alert that the game's fucking tied. I'm like, what happened in like the last 15 minutes? What happened? And of course it's Tom Brady, being Brady, but the Rams did enough, man.
Shout out, by the way, on that, too. I know James has got his finger up, but shout out to Mr. Freestyle from YouTube and Chuck, who guessed the exact score on that game. I screenshot it, sent it to the group. So shout out to both of you guys for having that game nailed down to the T.
Yeah, I was off by 1 point. I was close, but these guys.
Also, shout out to Mr. Freestyle for getting that username. That's pretty awesome. Getting in there early.
Right. Go ahead, James.
Real quick, this is what you call bad clock management or bad strategy or bad coaching, because my 9-year-old son pointed out if they would kick field goals every time they went for it on 4th down, they would have won the game.
Right.
But they thought they needed to score to be in it because they don't know what could happen or whatever. But my 9-year-old son said, hey, if they would kick their 3 field goals when they went for it 3 times on 4th and whatever, they would have won that game. Because they got that turnover by the fumble, and it wouldn't have gone in over.
Is he looking for a defensive coordinator position?
I don't know, but I didn't even think about it. He was like, "Hey, James, if Tom Brady would kick the field goal instead of going in on 4th down, they would have won by 8 points." So
right.
He's 9 years old, so he must know something.
Well, the 9 points, so it all works out.
Sometimes those kids, the lesser they know, it's they kind of dumb it down a little bit.
Don't overthink it.
Right.
But this kid Blake, he overthinks everything. He can give you on Sunday every score without even looking at his iPad. Every score. That's right. That's how phenomenal he's good with numbers. So.
Well, you got to give kudos in this game though to Matt Stafford, right? We all give him you can't take the Detroit out of Stafford. You can take Stafford out of Detroit, but I think he's gotten the monkey off his back a little bit. He ended up winning 2 playoff games to beat the GOAT the way he did, even in a situation where the defense allowed them to come back and tie the game. They didn't have much time left. I don't remember exactly how much was on the clock, but to take that deep shot down the field and hit Cooper Kupp the way he did and get into field goal range just shows that, this guy is still a very good quarterback. He was just in a shitty situation for a very, very long time.
There was 27 seconds left on the clock when that happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, I knew it wasn't much.
Yeah.
But got to talk about the best game of all, right? I mean, as good as all of these games were, I think this one was probably the most entertaining game in playoff history.
This is also the game that sparked the most conversation throughout social media in our group. But we were kind of tempered it in our group because we knew we were going to be talking about this.
Unreal.
But there's different takes on this. So it's the overtime game, right? So before we get to overtime, the fact that this game, 4 scores in the final 2 minutes of regulation, a total of 25 points, including the Chiefs getting in field goal range with 13 seconds left in the game, right? Crazy
9 seconds.
Yeah, crazy offensive piece
and
here.
the best meme of don't let a woman tell you 13 seconds isn't a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. This game, though, the end of that game, I had 2 flashbacks. I had flashbacks of the Ravens-Vikings snow game where it was absolutely insane for the last 2 minutes. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. It was just crazy back and forth. There was that. But then I also had flashbacks of Dean Pease to this fucking stupid prevent defense that we used to play for years, right? How do you I understand it's Patrick Mahomes and all the weapons he has and all that, but how? In 13 seconds, do you allow them to get into field goal range on 2 plays? And it was kind of cool. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet. I'll retweet it later. I have to go find it. There's the Chiefs released their wired segment of that game, and they actually had Travis Kelce wired during that, and they played that, and he saw how the defense was playing him and said, hey, listen, if they line up again, that seam's open. I'll take it, right? And as they're lining up on the line, you hear Mahomes in his audible say, yeah, Kelce, get that, Kelce. And he jumps off the line, hits him on that seam, gets in the field goal range, and the rest is history, man. It's unreal.
Damn, that's crazy. All right,
Unreal.
so let's get into the actual conversation because I knew that this one was going to be a conversation. That's why, part of the reason we left it for last. The overtime situation. You have two of the highest powered offenses that in this, at least in this week especially, but over the past several weeks. You got one of the better quarterbacks and the offensive schemes that we've seen in the Bills, and Josh Allen being hot, playing his ass off in this game. He plays so well and doesn't get to touch the ball in overtime for his chance to win for his team or give his team a chance. Thoughts on overtime rules and where it stands in the NFL right now? Should it change? Should it not change?
Pick somebody to go because I know we all stand different on this.
Go ahead, Drew.
Because I at least know me and James are finally on the same page for a debate for like the first time in forever. They've already changed the rules. It used to be you could get a goddamn field goal and that was it. You know what I mean? Like that could have been the outcome years ago in the same situation. But we've already said it. You had the lead with 13 seconds left. And this team had 2 timeouts. Why are you kicking it into the end zone to not kill any time whatsoever?
Completely
if it's
stupid.
Squib kick, or if it's one of those straight up in the air, and maybe it's like at the 35. Yeah, it's at the 35, but they, you know what I mean? Like they can't. If they have to make a move, then that's going to kill at least 2 seconds. That could have made a whole huge difference.
Yep, absolutely.
1, 2. It could have easily I think if it would have been a situation where. And I know 9 times out of 10, you at least could be one really good quarterback. But if this wasn't a situation where there was 2 MVP level type top tier quarterbacks, if it would have been like Jimmy Garoppolo versus Nick Foles, it would have been like, okay, well, whatever. No one would have made a big stink. But it's because you didn't, people are making a big stink because a guy like Josh Allen didn't get another chance to do it. All right, well, he needs to look at his own damn team because your defense, I'm sorry, your defense did not stop them. Right. You had that chance. And it wasn't just gas, because I think I was blaming a lot of it, like, okay, they were gas defenses, because I think I would have thought that the same way you reverse it with Kansas City, but maybe their defense would have treated it a lot different. I had seen stuff even just today where finally it got out there, like, no, Bills, were not playing the right defense at that time regardless. So, sorry, you know what I mean? It just comes down to, the better team won. If you don't want to lose, like James has said, and he can take over, stop the fucking guy.
Make a stop.
You couldn't stop him. Like you said, we said 13 seconds. That was because of the field goal. They got down there in 9 seconds to get in the field goal range for a good kicker. You know what I mean? You couldn't stop them in 9 seconds. You weren't stopping them in OT no matter what.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I'm with Drew, and also I know Chuck Summers been chiming in. I know he's hurt. I want the blue collar team to win and all that, but at the end of the day, this is the NFL. We all know you play 4 quarters. Some people don't even know there's a overtime tie, and then you have overtime. You know the rules, so let's not put yourself in the situation of going into overtime. You scored the touchdown. You're celebrating like you're going to the fucking Super Bowl. But you're not because there are 13 seconds. You never know. Anything could happen.
Right.
But I don't want the rules to be changed. At the end of the day, there's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser.
Yep.
Put everything on the field. At least there's 4 quarters. And then you don't want to put yourself in the situation of overtime. That's great. Be like John Harbaugh. Go for it. Go for 2. Do a 2-point conversion if you're worried about that shit. But what could happen. I don't want the rules changed. Rules change all the time when people's feelings get butthurt. It sucks. There's got to be a winner and losers. If not, we can all be participation trophies for everybody. But, this is football. Put your ass, play defense. Stop playing this goddamn prevent defense. I see more games lost from prevent defense than it does preventing to get a win. So
right.
I'm sad for the Buffalo fans because I was rooting for them. I had money on them. They fucked me except Gabriel. I had him scoring at least 1 touchdown. He scored fucking 4. He had these amazing fucking cleats on from
coming out party
video games.
Yeah.
He was straight up balling, getting that contract and all that. It sucked, but it was a hell of a game. But play fucking defense. That's all.
Yeah, I'll follow up here only because I'm on the same side with them, and they've already kind of hit the nail on the head with most of my points too. It's just, the Bills they're not a soft defense. They're one of the best defenses in the league, right? And you're in the playoffs and you can't stop a team. I don't give a shit who's out there. You can't stop a team with 13 seconds left from going 50 yards and getting in field goal range. Like it's mind-blowing to me. You deserve to lose that game. As much as I wanted the Bills to win that game, and I can't stand the fucking Chiefs, the Chiefs earned it, right? I know people out there want to say, well, let's take away the element of the coin toss because it's the only thing that's not predictable. I mean, that is part of the game. It is a game. Part of the game is a fucking coin toss. It's always been that way. Like, how many games do we play in the streets where we're like, well, paper, rock, scissors to see who goes first? It's the same fucking concept. Like, I don't know. Like, there's always a butthurt team at the end of the day because somebody always loses. And when you're on that side of the fence, yeah, of course you want to, it sucks. And you want your team to go out there, especially the kind of game that Josh Allen had, like to see him sitting on the sidelines without an opportunity to go out there and try to avenge and tie or win the game. It sucks. Like, I hate that for him. And I hate that for anybody that's in that position, except for anybody on like the Steelers or whatever. But I just don't think the rules should be changed at the end of the day. It's part of the rule. It's always been that way. It is a game at the end of the day. Chiefs won.
I'm riding the fence on this one, so I'll transition to what I assume is Scott on the other side. Is the college overtime better? Yeah, 100%. Like, are there stupid things about it too? There's no reason to switch sides of the field, guys. You waste way too much time. Just fucking pick a side and play there. I don't need you to keep going back and forth. Whatever. But yes, it's better. And in the NFL, you would already have to manipulate that because with the kickers they have, you're already in field goal range when you snap the ball. So you would have to start at like the 50, not the 35 or whatever they do at college at this point. So is it better? Sure. Is this the game that causes the change? God, I hope not. Because this is not even close to the least unfair. Like you said, there was a million ways to win this game. Yeah. Are there crazy things that kind of look dumb and kind of are weird, and we don't think that they're like, it's almost like cheating to win? Sure. Like, I mean, think about when we take a safety with the punter walking out the back of the end zone. Think about running backs taking a knee at the 1 with an open goal line. Like, all these things are like kind of cheating, but it's how you win. Like, they failed to do anything to manipulate the clock. They failed to do anything to change. Even just the fact that it was 4th and like 9, and they score a 29-yard touchdown. Why were you even throwing for the end zone at that point? Like, get a first down and win the game. Like, why do you want to get Pat Mahomes back at 2 minutes, much less 13 seconds? Then all of your points are true with 13 seconds. A kick brings you down to 10. Hell, after that, you could just tackle all the wide receivers every time the ball's snapped. They only get 10 yards at a time, and 5 seconds comes off. Then you have to defend them for one play from the 45-yard line on their side of the field. That's all you have to do. One untimed down. Like, there's so many ways to cheat to make this game end. Why did you not cheat? So no, this cannot be the game that changes the NFL overtime. We have to wait for another game that this happens before we change it, because this can't be the one. This is a terrible litmus test.
It shouldn't
to
be
show
any.
That this is the one.
No,
there shouldn't be a change.
This is not the tuck rule game. This is not the knee game. This is not the game.
But real quick before Scott gets in, they're a professional athlete. This is called NFL. College is college for a reason. Me personally, as a fan, as you're a professional athlete getting paid money, I don't want you getting the ball at the 35 because you can't score or stop somebody. So let's say, hey, let's put it 35. Let's see each offense out there. You guys are professional athletes. If that's the case, if anything, I would love to see, sort of like soccer, have your fucking field goal kickers out and boot fucking balls through.
As a Ravens fan, I endorse this message. Field goal off.
Doesn't matter.
Don't have a fucking overtime or whatever. Just say
straight shootout.
Fucking kickers out. Let's go. 5 kicks.
Let your quarterback stand at the 50 and throw it at the crossbar.
All right, Scott, you got 3.5 guys against you here, so let's see.
It's accurate.
I am actually on the fence with this too, but because you guys actually
join me, it's uncomfortable.
Did we sell you on the other side of it, Scott?
No, I was on the fence from the get-go. Here's my. I'll play the devil's advocate side to the argument, since you guys took the other side of the argument that I could also go on, right?
What, that your son's the quarterback?
So if you're looking at things, right, and you're saying that you're okay with how this is set up, right? You're also okay with a tie then, right? Is everybody
there
okay
would
with
be
the
a
tie?
tie
Because I'm
in
pretty
play.
sure a few weeks
I'm
ago
cool.
we said we didn't think the tie was okay. You want a winner and a loser. So if that's the case, then you have to change the tie rule then too. There needs to be a winner and a loser. You keep going until somebody scores. That's what the rule is. The problem is the NFLPA never went for it. During the regular season, they didn't. Playoffs, yes, there's implications of moving on to the next round. That's why they went for it. On the flip side of that, every other sport, and I get it, it's been like this for a long time. Every other sport, when you go into an overtime type situation or an extra innings or shootout, whatever you want to call it, every other sport, both teams get a chance. Both teams get the chance to score. I am not aware of any other sport that is like the NFL in this sense. So in that sense, yeah,
Hockey,
the
a
NFL
golden goal.
No,
What?
hockey is they play now
It's a
3-on-3 for 5 minutes. If it's tied after that, then it's a shootout.
But it's
golden
not
But you
goal.
first
play the
score
full
goal
5
wins.
minutes.
It's not for. I mean, yeah, you have to. Yeah, I mean, you have to score in the 5-minute period, but that's it.
Right.
Tennis, you don't get a chance.
But if you score with 2 minutes into the 5-minute period, the other team can score again.
No, game's over. So
Okay, so it is golden goal for in hockey. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, it is.
I guess they both get to touch the puck.
to
probably.
David-
Yeah,
to
I mean,
David's
they're
point-
both on the ice at the same time. It's a little bit different. Yeah.
To David's point, he says, do you want football to be like other games? And that's my point in this whole thing is
And I
it's a
get-
game. They're all different, and that's what makes them unique. I see the point of, like Adit says, the only thing that needs to really change about overtime is that both teams should have a chance to put their offense on the field in overtime. If it's still tied after both teams had a chance, next score wins. I understand like the thought process behind that. And from a fairness, I guess, standpoint, that makes sense. But these are rules that have been in place forever. Yes, the modification happened a few years back where they,
Because of Brady, Brady and Peyton Manning never got the ball. They kicked the field
And
goal.
that's when it
Now they
changed,
Right.
yeah.
Kicked the
And-
field goal.
right. And I think that if they were going to make that change that Adit's alluding to, that's when it should have happened, and that's when it would have happened. I don't think they make another change, regardless of the game situation.
But
I think that was
Yeah,
more of a
just suck.
change. That was more of a change for me about the field goal kickers themselves, because you used to have to get down to like the 20 to kick a field goal, and now you get to like the 48-yard line and you can kick a field goal. So it's a completely different situation than the kickers back in the day.
Yeah,
That's
kinda
my own
what I was-
personal opinion.
kind of what I was going for, right?
Probably truth to that.
Is if you're okay with one in the overtime rules, you have to be okay with both. If you're not okay with one, then you can't be okay with both. You can't end the game on a tie after overtime if you're also not willing to give both teams a shot at doing it. I'm playing the fence, playing the devil's advocate on this just because you guys brought up all the other points that I think absolutely make sense. But I think everybody needs to kind of take a step back and say, yes, I understand that it's not like other sports, right? That you can do this. But how boring is a tie? You're willing to accept a tie, or you're not willing to accept a tie. You don't want a tie, but you're willing to not let both teams have a shot. I think that the idea of switching it, adjusting, and saying both teams do get a shot, right? If you go down the field and you march down the field, you get the score, that's fine. If your defense scores, game over, right? Because if your defense scores, there's no point in your offense coming out. So it would have to be the rule is each team gets one shot at a score, and that's it. I think you eliminate the idea of the kickoff. I think you're eliminating, for people that are saying eliminate the coin toss, then you're going to eliminate the coin toss at the beginning of the game too.
Yeah, coin tosses
needs-
in general.
Right. So, which Vegas would never let happen because there's money on the coin flip in Vegas. But I look at it and I say, I get both sides. Again, playing devil's advocate, I think there are reasons to change it. I think there's reasons not to change it, which is why I'm on the fence. And I wouldn't be upset one way or the other. Now, if we started seeing a pattern of every year we see a playoff game that ends like this because you get two top tier teams that are able to go at it with their offenses, their defenses are backpedaling. You can't put that on the defense or on the offense at that point that it's their fault, right? If both teams score the same amount, the offense is there or not there, one of the two. So give both teams a chance. I get both sides.
Drew, wrap us up here because we got to get moving. We got a lot more to cover here.
Really, the only one real I've done kind of thing. I kind of lost my train of thought with all the talking. So I had 2 points to bring up. One was real and one was lighthearted. One was real. So to me, like if you're gonna change the overtime rule for the playoffs, then you change the overtime rule in general
Across the
It
board.
isn't just one or the other. So in the regular season, because it's different now. It was different on Saturday. If this game was in week 9, they have 10 minutes. Now this one, granted, I know it's a playoff game, but it's you keep going until there's a winner. But it was a 15-minute quarter. Think back to when the Ravens had the Mile High Miracle. They have bled into the second quarter. You had 15 minutes, so if you're gonna do it for the playoffs, then to me, whatever happens with the overtime needs to be across the board.
Which is what my point was with the tie,
Yes.
right? If if
Okay,
you're willing
yeah.
to accept one, you got to do it for both. So
Yeah, and then my second point is more lighthearted. Man, Chuck Summers, we feel bad for you, man.
Yeah.
He keeps
definitely.
having comment after comment. I just kept seeing it. Like I did. That was one of the. I like both teams. To have the Bills be the fucking redheaded stepchild.
I'm part of the
New
curse
England.
for Chuck. I texted him when Diggs called that 2-point conversion.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
I thought,
That's
'cause I
why
thought that
said-
was the bullet, and
That's
it
why
wasn't.
he made that comment. I felt like
I
felt,
text him
yeah.
and Connor, my neighbor, because they're both Bills fans, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit!" Now I feel like an ass.
So yeah, so like
After-
I was rooting for the. I'm fine with either team winning because if one of them was going to represent the AFC, I wanted it to be one of those two. So yeah, I just wanted to make a point to like Chuck, we know you're our boy.
Yeah.
We
Man, for sure.
we feel bad
All
for
I know,
you.
Yeah.
We're
all I
sorry
know
that
is-
Diggs stared at the celebration and then only got one
all I-
catch for a 2-point
We had
conversion.
7 yards.
all I know is after hearing what Scott had to say, I'm not playing any board games with Scott because we play Monopoly and he rolls at 12. He's like, I gotta go to jail, but if I would get another chance to roll, I'd probably get 10 and not go to jail, and I would be able to keep on playing with you guys. I'm not playing board games with you guys. Make new rules
I
up.
love James. Oh, I love
Oh, that was
then
funny.
don't yell at me when I tell you your ass is going to jail. All right.
Part of
All
the
right.
game.
Let's move on. Let's move on to this weekend. We got to talk about the conference championships after this crazy game, crazy week. I can't imagine this weekend can top it. But they got some interesting matchups. You got some good teams. Let's start with the AFC first. Scott, I'll let you kick this off. You got the number 4 seed Bengals now in the AFC Championship. After 33 years of never winning a playoff game or not having won a playoff game in 33 years in the AFC Championship, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who, like I said, just took the breath out of everybody in Buffalo in that game. What do you
James
see
already
happening?
stamped this one. Why are we even talking about it?
Yeah, I look at this one. It's gonna be an interesting game to see if the Bengals offensively can bounce back. I don't know if they really can. The Chiefs have kind of been up and down with the scores, but when you get high-powered offenses, obviously we saw the Bills. Now, obviously, this Joe Burrow is not Josh Allen, but he's been playing pretty good the past several weeks outside of last week getting demolished in the pocket. But it's going to be interesting. This game could swing one way or the other. It could be a blowout by the Chiefs, or it could be a damn close game. Either way, I just don't see the Bengals being able to handle the Chiefs for a longer period of time. I think the Chiefs are going to win this. I'll say I'll put it 32-27.
All right, Ryan, what do you see happening?
I see the Chiefs winning by a lot because I think that they're going to sack them just like they did against the Titans, and I think that they don't have Ryan Tannehill to ruin their chances. So, like I said, if we got even money on this James bet, I might have to play house.
What do you got to score? Pick a score.
32-21.
All right, James, what do you got?
You already know what I got. I got Cincinnati winning this game. I have it high scoring, 37-31. Cincinnati beat Kansas City already this year, and when you have your rifle locked and loaded like Joe Burrow has, he's just hitting targets all day long.
All right, Drew.
I don't want to see the Cincinnati pull off the win. I don't.
It hurts their draft capital.
So what?
They're gonna fuck it up regardless
They
of
win
where
the
they're
Super
picking
Bowl,
anyway.
and you're looking. You know what I mean? Like it's just then you get to the point when then people are, oh, see, Burrow's better than Lamar. He's a running back.
I think we're already
We're
at
gonna
that
get that
point.
anyway.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah, I'm a Mahomes guy. We all in this chat know that.
Fuck his brother and his wife.
Look, my point, like you said, Tennessee. We said it. Tennessee had 9 fucking sacks against them. They're going into another really good pass rush, and I don't think at this point in the season that Mahomes is turning the ball over as much, and he's not going to do really dumb mistakes anyway, like Tannehill did. There was no reason for Tennessee to lose that game. We've said it. And I don't think Kansas City is going to put themselves in that position to lose a game. I got them winning it 34-24.
All right. So as much as I want to see Cincinnati win this game, it's hard rooting for another AFC North team, but I don't know. I got a little bit of soft spot for Cincinnati somehow. Listen, I believe in Joe Burrow. I know I'm not going to suck the nutsack of Joe Burrow, whatever the fuck you said.
And I like the guy. That's the funny part about what I said. I like the guy. I just wish he didn't go to Cincinnati.
Right. You got to look at what he did. I mean, he inherited a 2-win team, and in 2 years, he's in the AFC Championship. Like, it's unreal, the change. This is the adage that I've been saying for years, that quarterback is the single most important position in any sport because it can make the biggest impact and the biggest change, and we've seen that in 2 years with Cincinnati. I think Burrow is going to be running for his life just like he was against the Titans. I think Melvin Ingram in this game has a big game. He has played kind of possessed. I mean, he looked unreal against Buffalo. He was constantly in the backfield, and nobody on that Cincinnati offensive line is going to be able to stop him. Chris Jones, another one's going to be a problem on that defensive line for them. Burrow's going to be running for his life, and like you said, Ryan, they don't have Tannehill out there. They've got Mahomes and a crazy offensive, juggernaut that the Chiefs are. I think the Chiefs win this one 32-24. That's what I've got.
One little quick take. We're going to see in this game where we were talking about with the change of the Ravens defense of being a more pass rushing centric team. We're going to see what that actually means here, because I think that's almost not carbon copy. I don't really know the definition I'm looking for, but it's such a really good pass rush where that secondary is kind of lacking. And if Tyrann Mathieu isn't playing, that's going to be a real good thing for Cincinnati. So we're going to see a thing you made a really great pass rush, but if it's just that enough time and if Burrow's good enough to attack the secondary, we'll find out in this game.
Yeah, it does. Sean Carter's saying Tyrann is back this week, so we'll see. If that's the case, I mean, that's a big win for the Chiefs, which, again, I think they're going to win with or without him. It'll just be not as close a game. But, all right, let's go on to the NFC Championship, where you got, in my opinion, the surprise 49ers going into L.A. to take on the Rams, team that I've been high on since day one. I don't know. This is a game that, as much as I easily want to slam dunk pick the Rams here, the 49ers have already proved me wrong one time. They are very aggressive defensively. They've got some key pieces on that defensive line. I'm not going to doubt Debo, Ryan. Debo will be a factor in this game. Debo. He will be a factor in this game. So I think the 49ers will stay in the game. But I ultimately think the Rams being home, I think they'll be able to do enough. And again, I do believe in Matt Stafford. I believe in Sean Payton. I believe in the offense that they have. Cam Akers, I think he'll be a factor in this game. He had a couple fumbles this past week. I think he corrects that this week. He has a big game. I think the Rams win. I've got them winning 27-20 in this game. Scott, what do you got?
All right, I look at this game, and I think it's going to be interesting from a defensive standpoint. The Rams, we saw some domination out of them this past week, and what they were kind of able to bring to the table early, right? They kind of lost it late, and we saw them charge. We saw the Bucks charge down the field. The 49ers have that ability, but they don't have the leader that Tom Brady was. So I don't know that this is going to be a close game, but I've got this being, I'll say, a Rams win. I'm going to go 27. I'll go 27-19 in favor of the Rams.
All right. David's got it a blowout. 47-13 Rams. Stafford will sit out the final quarter. That's a hell of a prediction there. Ryan, what do you see happening in this game?
Debo's a man. I ain't doubting Debo. I'm taking the 49ers here.
Wow.
I think that not only the fact that Debo is probably the best player on the field, but the fact that you can't eliminate him, because if your defense stops passes, we'll just hand him the ball. And if your defense stops runs, well, then we'll throw him the ball. And there's nothing you can do to stop him, and he's going to eat you alive. And I'm kind of in love with the guy at this point. So all Debo all the time, 27-13. Stafford interceptions going to come popping back up this week.
All right, Drew, what do you got?
I'm going to go ahead and make this an interesting score. Rams 26-17. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times. It doesn't happen very often with these division matchups that happens in the playoffs. So I'm literally I know exact science to it. I'm happy with either team winning. To be honest with you, like I don't dislike anything really about either team. Uh, like I said, other than the fact I'm going with, it's really hard to win 3 times against one team in one season.
It's true. It's true. What do you got the score? Did you say score it?
26-17, something.
26.
Random.
Okay.
That might be scoregami. I don't know.
James, what do you got? I don't hear you, James. Your mic's off.
You went away for a couple seconds.
Yeah, I think he lost signal.
I can't stand. Nah, I had it on mute. I can't stand the 49ers. They didn't show me anything in the playoffs so far. Jimmy G has that gay ass smile on his face every time he wins, like he's the next big thing. But
so does Tom Brady. Still wins.
He smiles like he has something in his ass or something like this, like
you know how pretty that boy is, and he's got NFL quarterback money.
All right.
The only thing that you need to stop is Debo. Their defense hasn't really shown me. Their offense hasn't really shown me, except Debo. Jimmy G can't throw anything with his bad shoulder and bad thumb. I'm just hoping the fucking Rams just spank them all over the place. So I have it like 37-27. I hope OBJ just goes off and just tears a new asshole.
A lot of asshole talk there.
That was a whole lot of ass talking.
Whole lot of asshole talk.
I can't stand the 49ers. They're not even that great of a team. There's nothing that wows you at all except Debo. That's it. All
right, fellas, it's time for the Liquor Stop social media shout out. I don't know if anybody has been writing names down. Ryan, have you been doing that at all? So
sure, we're good. The computer does it for me.
Okay.
We got Jacob Paul, David Missler, Garnett West, Nick Short, Kamal Porter, Craig Zero, lots of other people. Chuck, Sean Carter,
Alex Devon,
Adit, Abi Hassan. Pretty much, we shouted out a bunch of you. I know I saw Googs in here. We've been talking all day. Thanks everybody for signing in. This is a little bit different on this virtual thing, so a little harder to keep track of what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to do around here.
All right, Scott. This week, what did Jerry and the crew hook you up with, or did they hook you up with anything this week? What do you got?
So the crew actually had they're short staffed up there right now, being hit by the COVID piece. So they actually were closed when I was able to get up there. But I did talk to them. I had some of the beer that they actually do have. We've had before from Flying Dog. It's their Numero Uno. It's a staple from them. It's a Mexican lager. Kind of tastes just like I would say it tastes very similar to a Corona. Honestly, in my opinion, a craft Corona almost better. It's not something that you're going to be pounding, but you can definitely put a few.
It's one of their staples, man. It's good stuff. I like it.
It's definitely good stuff. What are you guys drinking on?
So I got something new and exciting. If you've been on TikTok, I'm sure you've seen this make an appearance on your For You feed at some point. From Jameson, the Jameson Orange. This stuff's good, man. If you haven't had it yet, so
mix that with a little bit of Sprite. That's good.
I'm a big whiskey guy. I've always loved Jameson. I've had some rough nights on Jameson, so I got to temper, how much I drink Jameson. But this stuff here, Jameson itself I think it's like 80 proof. This is 60, so it's not quite as strong. It almost kind of has like an orange Tic Tac vibe to it. So if you're an orange Tic Tac fan,
that sounds
like
awesome.
This.
I'm gonna have to pick the alcohol back up.
It's good. Like Scott says, man, you mix it with a little bit of Sprite. It is money. So
it's
if
got
you're
the bite of whiskey, but you get the orange aftertaste.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
I've ate hella orange Tic Tacs in my day.
If you're riding by a liquor store and you're looking to try something new, hopefully you go by Liquor Stop. Not many places have this in stock. Pick yourself up a bottle. It's like $23 for a whatever size bottle this is here.
Good, Drew.
I had some of that Sugarland Punch Scott got me a while back. I had some of that.
It's that freaking Kool-Aid shit.
I'm crack another one of these open, but yeah, I had a nice tall drink of the punch for the whole show.
So I gotta address one thing while we're in this social media shout out, because Sean Carter's been all over the place talking about these AB DMs, this, that, the other.
Jay-Z.
Sean, we're not doubting you. You might have receipts that you're talking to AB, and I believe AB wants to play for the Ravens. I don't believe that any NFL team wants AB on a roster ever again. So that doesn't really matter what AB wants. It's pretty cool that you're talking to AB. I mean, that's an awesome experience. I think that would be kind of fun to talk to that psych patient for my sake. But no, I don't think he ever gets on the field for anyone ever again, much less us.
Yeah, that's just not an avenue I think the Ravens will ever explore, regardless of how much he wants to be here.
He wants to. That don't mean somebody else wants to.
Right.
You had a falling out with the Bucks, and then look, I don't like Tom Brady, but of all people, you're gonna come out and shit talk Tom fucking Brady, who was like, you know what I mean? Like,
come on, what's the receipts?
That draws the line. If you would have just did your crazy shirt off thing, and you were quiet after the fact,
yeah, mad at the coach.
You come out, and that's fine because I don't really trust the whole situation with Arians. And when you come out and you shit talk Tom Brady and kind of like make him seem like he's some kind of
like he didn't stick his neck out to get you back on the field.
Sean, here's the thing. He's saying, look at OBJ though. It's working out with the Rams. It's not that any of us don't realize the talent that Antonio Brown is. Antonio Brown is still one of the top 10 most talented wide receivers in the game today. I think he could be on the field and be a top 10 talent. The problem is everything else that's around him. I understand that the situation with OBJ worked out for him, but OBJ and Antonio Brown are incomparable as far as mental capacity goes and how they impact the locker room.
The other thing that you gotta factor in here, right, is like I get the upsetness, right, and maybe he's reacting in the moment with the whole the Tom Brady thing.
Come on, no, it wouldn't be in Madden.
But so here's the thing that I would say is if it's true and it comes out that it is true that he was playing injured and they knew it and didn't do anything about it. It's going to open up a larger book and an understanding of trying to figure out what happened. But B, he's reacting in that sense. He's reacting. Is he throwing shade at Tom Brady? I get it. But he's emotional about the situation. He was playing hurt, if that's the case. The way that he went off is why teams don't want to do it. You're going to have teams that I guarantee you some teams are trying to find out the whole story or trying to figure out what the whole story is because they are curious. But nobody's going to go pulling the trigger on anything with AB right now. And this is, I think, what you guys are saying. Nobody's pulling the trigger with him if they think there's any chance he's going to pull the same thing on their team. You get your team to the playoffs and you walk away? Like, that's what a lot of teams are doing. They're trying to put together the injury piece, but no guarantees on that. Go ahead, Drew.
I'm sorry. AP. He sucks, too. AB has lost all credibility. You cannot turn any situation he's involved in to a he said. With all the antics the last couple of years, one. And two, okay, like I said, I don't believe Arians treated that situation right. I think he tried to backtrack and make it look a little less how he handled the situation. But if that was the case, sure. But then it also came out that prior to that Jets game, him and his people said, hey, can we get that incentive up front?
Right.
And then all this shit happens.
And then he dropped a single on the same day.
And then didn't this OnlyFans chick say that he talked about it prior?
It's
the one he snuck into the hotel room against.
No, I'm trying not to like start any strife with anybody that's in as fans of our show that genuinely, I don't know if it's real or genuine, they're like and want AB here. It is completely stupid and like reckless as a fan to want to have that drama on your team at this point. Because he, like I said, he proved that he could only make it work with the greatest quarterback of all time for a season and a half. And then once he, like I said it again, once he was told he wasn't going to get his incentives up front, and he had that inkling of coming up short of that incentive and not getting millions of dollars, which is the only thing he fucking cares about is money.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question to make you think about the statement that you just made. What if they're asking for the money up front because they knew he was hurt? Or does that change your tune? Does that change your tune?
He's been hurt for weeks. It isn't like all of a sudden
everybody's hurt.
When he had an ankle injury that's hurt.
But if he's hurt,
you know what? No, I don't know why.
Hold on a second. No. Let me finish before you.
No. But here's my thing too. We shit on a lot of people royally. Shit on Aaron Rodgers, rightfully so, for his douchebaggery with his whole vaccination
full douchebaggery.
And I'm sorry, that guy didn't come out with a fake ID card and get suspended for 3 weeks and break the fucking law. A felony.
Yeah, he should be in jail.
And Ryan and James and Drew and Scott and Fred would not have gotten away with. The regular people would not have got away
I
with
like
what
that I
AB
was last
did.
on that list.
If you did not have that stupidity, you cost yourself 3 weeks. If you played for 3 weeks instead of lying and cheating and being a felon, you get your goddamn money.
So Nick is just feeding fuel to the fires. He said, "How many times have we spun you guys on AB?" He like this entire thing it's all a joke.
Go away.
Listen, nobody actually. I mean, yes, there are people out there. I'm not gonna say nobody. There
I
are
mean,
people out
Sean
there that
Carter
like to
might
see
be one
it.
of them. I don't know. He
Sean
hasn't said
might be
he's
one of
joking.
them. There might be a few guys out there that one of them. But I mean, I think anybody with 2 cents like understands the fact of how much of a benefit it would be on the field if everything else wasn't a factor. But that's not the case with AB. There's so much that comes along with him, and we've seen it time and time again. It's not risk worth, the risk value. It's not there.
Let the Jaguars do it. Sell some tickets. We're gonna sell tickets either way.
Again, I'm not saying that this should happen. My whole point in saying was everybody is so quick to dismiss, but there are little droppings that should make you question the fact that Arians is backtracking, right? The fact that the team trainer backtracked what he said. It makes you question and think maybe there's more to the story. I agree with you, Drew. There's a lot more to the full story, but my whole statement was just the simple fact that
he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt with me.
Does anybody know Sean Carter? Does Nick Short have 2 laptops in front of him now?
Sean Carter, JC, that's the only thing I can think of.
All right. Fellas, it's 9:30 and we still got Shell and Tell and Rundown. We got a lot to get through, man. So Shell and Tell is going to be brief, but there were some things that happened this week and last 2 weeks, really, that Ryan and I wanted to bring you up to speed on. I know I talked a little bit about it last week on the show. We just put out a recent episode of the Shell and Tell podcast. We had a special guest, Terps tight end Chig Okonkwo, on the show. He stayed with us for about 20-25 minutes. Just kind of talked a little bit about like his experiences as a Terp, his kind of, I guess, standpoint on what he thinks the current status of the tight end group's going to be moving forward, and a little bit about his personal stuff, what life's been like since Maryland. It was a really, really good interview. It was a lot of fun to talk to Chig. Ryan, I mean, I don't know if you have anything to add about the interview.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really personable interview. Really enjoyed it. This guy's going to be a pro, tight end at some point. He's going to, be one of those guys that gets along, gets in the locker room, hopefully gets a shot at actually cracking, making some plays. But he's going to be in the league for a long time. I think he's got the skills for it. He's got the, the aptitude to know any playbook at any time. So he's going to do just fine. So it was really fun to listen to. I hope you guys take a look at that episode because it was really good.
Definitely. He's an easy guy to talk to. And like you said, it's just very well spoken. We wish nothing but the best for Chig moving forward and look forward to cheering for him on Sundays now. So we had talked a lot about like offensive line and the continuity with the offensive line on this team, right? We kind of fully expected maybe 1 or 2 pieces to kind of move along with this offensive line, whether it be NFL dream, maybe transfer portal again, whatever that may be, but that's not the case, right? We got our entire starting offensive line group coming back, which is super exciting for this team. We've added some young pieces from St. Francis and some other places that are going to now get time to learn behind this starting group and not be thrust into starting roles right away. Well, that beef on that line continued to grow this week. Tell us about this new JUCO tackle that we're getting.
Yeah, so early sign day, we ended up with 5 offensive tackles from your normal recruiting grounds. It's a little bit outside your normal recruiting grounds. You passed this name off to me real quick. Lerndon Mijukzovic. I'm going to have to learn that one. He's from the Netherlands, of all places. It comes from, I guess it's kind of like this guy's specialty. He goes over into Europe, finds these giants, coaches them up into NFL caliber, recruits, and brings them back to the States to get them full ride scholarships. It's kind of just his like wheelhouse. So he's like the guy for European transfers. And he's coming in 6'7", 300 pounds. Still has 4 years of eligibility remaining. He actually came over and played JUCO ball last year, but just didn't count towards his eligibility at the Power 5 level. So should be a lot of fun. I don't expect him to crack the starting lineup this year, but it gives him a chance to grow with these 5 offensive tackle recruits that we already signed at early signing day. Some of the guys that we've gotten over the last couple years. we just keep bringing in these huge frames, and
Yeah.
hopefully that combined with Brian Braswell and the increased offensive line coaching staff is going to start paying dividends year after year. Having this whole offensive back gives them time to really meld and build the next line of assault for the Big Ten.
Yeah, David with a good point says Netherlands hold the strongest man in the world almost every year, so that's
true. Why
that
not?
bodes well for this
Why
guy.
not go ground?
This guy was a verbal commit to Temple last year. Didn't end up signing though, but he should, once all like the academic stuff is done and obtained, he should be signing with us during the February signing period. So that should be official then. So again, at a piece like that, 6'7", 300, you can't teach size. To sit behind an offensive tackle like Jalen Duncan and learn from him, I think will benefit this guy. So that's a big addition. Kudos to Mike Loxley and crew for getting that one done. So the other side of that, we got a couple additions on the preferred walk-on side. One guy I'll start with was a guy that I was ringing the bell for the minute that I heard Bowling Green had pulled the card on him. And that's another St. Francis Academy kid, guy that my cousin actually went to high school with at a St. Francis Academy. It's quarterback John Griffith. Again, was a verbal commitment to Bowling Green on scholarship earlier in the cycle, but parted ways late in the fall. He's going to be a preferred walk-on. Another, again, we talk about the importance of building that bridge and building that pipeline from St. Francis. This is a guy that probably won't see the field for a couple years with the Terps, especially with some of the other talent that they have there at the quarterback, but you got to have that depth. And again, it's another piece to get from that big program.
Yeah, it's a huge piece and just kind of shows you where the program's developed. I mean, we were offering scholarships to the same people Bowling Green were offering scholarships back in the day, and now we're going for, taking who their starter was going to be as a preferred walk-on. So it's really great to get this. I know Ahmed had kind of shot it down when we were talking originally because we were kind of talking about we had an extra scholarship to give at the quarterback position, which we did not do here. But to get him as a preferred walk-on, it's kind of a steal. It gives you that look at a high-quality quarterback from a huge program locally. Anything you can do, as we've seen in the last few years, where we're kind of taking their tier 3 guys at St. Francis, and all of a sudden now we're getting their tier 1, tier 2 guys in these recent years. So it's anything you can do to build that relationship. I don't see St. Francis falling off the map anytime soon,
No.
with or without Biff Poggi over there. I think they're going to be just fine at this point.
Yep, and the other guy we get is another local guy, tight end, or I'm going to label him athlete. Even though he's not like the traditional definition of
athlete
athlete.
means used to be a quarterback, Fred.
Listen,
There's no
I
other
understand.
one.
He's not the traditional what you would label an athlete, but he was a tight end at good counsel, Josh Jennings. But why I say that is he actually played a little bit of offensive tackle as well. He's prototypically the blocking type of tight end, what you would expect. So this is a kid that could come in and develop into that blocking role, but right now we have a lot of youth and a lot of talent at the tight end position, or he could put on a little bit of size and end up fitting in on the offensive line somewhere, whether that be at tackle, whether that be at guard. Because, yes, we do have a lot of pieces that are coming back, but that attrition is going to happen next year, and we're going to need more pieces on the offensive line. So this is a guy why I say athlete is because he could evolve at a couple different spots. But, again, another good piece to add.
Yeah, when you're talking about a small offensive tackle, that's also like a center is an option there if he really gets back and learns kind of when you put your smaller offensive lineman at that position. So who knows? Another good one to grab, staying local, getting some top talent, and not having to waste any scholarships on them. Sounds good to me.
Well, you mentioned those tier 1 players out of St. Francis, right?
This is the one.
This is the one, right? This is the guy that was, I don't know, a South Carolina commit for 24 hours or something. All in a media
all
hoopla, part of the game, right? Future star Jayshon Barham. And I say future. I think his impact's going to be immediate.
This fall.
It's going to be immediate. This is the linebacker from St. Francis, like I said, that kind of did the flip-flop between between South Carolina and us. Ended up winning the defensive MVP award during this weekend's Polynesian Bowl game. 5 tackles, 2 of which for a loss. He had a pick 6 deflection touchdown, helping his team, Mackay, win 17-3 in this game. What I like about this guy, I mean, he's just uber talented, Ryan, but what I really, really like about this kid is his versatility. I know Ahmed said more than likely he'll play inside, but from what I saw in the highlights and what I've read and seen in some of his clips online, This guy's got more versatility in that. He's 6'3", 230 pounds, but he's got good speed. You can line him up inside or outside all over the field. You can line him up in specific blitz packages. There's a lot to like about this kid because, again, you're not pigeonholed to one, inside or outside. I'm excited about this kid.
Yeah, I mean, he was playing great in coverage. When you get that kind of coverage skills and you're getting tackles for loss, that's a hell of a combination to have. I think it's going to be good right from the beginning. He'll be at least what Jennings was last year, if not more. He might be what Jennings was game one. What Jennings was by the end of the year, he could be game one kind of thing. Right. So it's good to have. I think we still need a little bit of help in this linebacker core, but who knows? Maybe they'll all surprise us. If everybody plays their ceiling, if we can get the Ruben we thought we had, if we can get this, Barham that we thought we have, this could be a very, very talented defense.
I am dreaming of the day of Ruben in the middle of the defense, Chop and Barham on the opposite sides, and what's the offensive line going to do? Who are they going to stop? I really think Chop makes a big leap from year one to year two. I think we oversold a little bit on him, and I think he was kind of thrust in a little bit earlier than he should have been due to injuries and whatnot. But I think he has a big year next year.
So I see this next note is basketball, but I got to interrupt here because I got a text message during the show from big fan of Maryland Terrapins, big fan of the Shell and Tell, Brendan Richardson. Sent me an ESPN link with some really, really bad news. It says that there is a new team in the Caleb Williams franchise, a new landing spot. That Wisconsin is now part of the top three looking for at receiving his talents. Now, let me tell you, there is no reason for him to go to Wisconsin. They're not a good team, but the reason is
offensive line.
Well, that's true, but Wisconsin still thinks they're the best team in the country, even though they haven't done anything in 25 years. They still have boosters that believe they're supposed to win every year. They still have all these millionaires sitting out there going, why is my team bad? And when you've opened up free agency in all of sports, and hands down, the best quarterback in the NCAA is just saying, find me a bigger number and I'll come play for you, they might find a hell of an NIL package to pull him in, and that would immediately change my wins for the Terps because I have that down as a win for us right now. And with Caleb Williams behind center, you can mark that as an L today.
Yeah, I heard that news and I didn't know if there was any truth to it. I hadn't followed up with Ahmed because it literally happened. I heard about it about an hour before.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm seeing is the ESPN article. We can check our sources. They're probably a little bit closer to this than that, but
I don't want him.
They want clicks, so
I don't want him anywhere near any team in the Big Ten. I know his family's been very vocal about whatever that choice is going to be. It's going to be about the team that gives him the best chance to be NFL ready. So we'll see. I don't
think
know
that's Wisconsin.
I was going to say
that's a number game. If you go to Wisconsin, it's because they added a zero.
Man, that could be. All right, let's talk a little bit of basketball on the other side of things because things are starting to right the ship a little bit. Recently anyway, at least the last game. We'll just focus on the last game. The men ended up beating number 17 Illinois 81-65. Kinda. They were like Illinois light.
Somebody was missing.
A big body was missing. A big Cockburn was missing in the middle of that.
McDonald's lawsuit himself, Kofi Cockburn.
Cockburn, whatever.
Cockburn, I don't care.
I don't give a shit. This dude doesn't know how to spell. The McDonald's lawsuit himself, Coffee Cockburn, it was not in the game. Yeah. After Julian Reese put his nuts all in his face in Illinois and basically shot a grizzly bear with a BB gun, and all of a sudden we were down by 30, he decided not to play in this game with concussion protocol. So it was a little bit easier of a game.
Well, it was a lot of the same from the Terps. There was a lot of runs in this game where the Terps would, run off 10, 11 points, and then they would go cold, and then, Illinois would run off 13. They did end up going on a 11-0 run to secure the win at the end of the game, so they got hot at the right time in this game. Dante Scott played one of his best games, I think, as a Terp. 25 points on 9 of 12 from the field and 6 rebounds.
His career high in points, and it looked like a man-child. He had so many and-one plays where he scored the layup and got fouled on the play. That was the real big thing with that in his development. And
Yeah.
the other person I want to shout out is Julian Reese. Julian Reese really showed some development in this game. I don't have the points looked at, but I can tell you he knew what was happening. He was directing traffic. He was moving the plays. He was standing out at point, getting everybody directed, and it was not what I've been seeing all year. I've been seeing a very, very talented center who kind of is a little lost this next level, where he can't just physically dominate somebody. He has to actually play the plays. He actually has to know what's going on. He actually has to be with. Well, he seems to be putting it together. He's getting there right now. And so if we can hold this man for another year, I am very, very excited to see his development, because it is coming along a little faster than even I expected.
That's true. That's true. Terps actually end up playing Rutgers tonight. Haven't had a chance to check in on that score yet, but they are playing Rutgers now. Sean asks, who do you think the Terps will bring in as a coach next year? Do you think we got our guy? Real quick answer, no, we don't have our guy, but we're going to talk more about who that coach will be on a future episode of Shell and Tell. We'll probably dive pretty deep into some of the candidates. We've already talked a little bit about some, but we'll dive deeper into that in a few weeks.
You want a heads up on the Terp score?
Yeah, go ahead.
It is Terps 57, Rutgers 46 with 6.5 left.
All right, we'll see if the Terps can hang on to that one. But got to talk to the other side of basketball as well. On the women's side, the number 12 women who have been a little underwhelming at times. I know they've had some injuries and things that they've had to work through as well. Bounce back in a big way, end up beating Northwestern 87-59 after losing at Ohio State in a high-scoring game, 95-89 on Friday and 69-49 to number 11 Michigan last Tuesday. They hit kind of a rough patch there. Team just hadn't been able to roll over teams like we thought they would, with all their players coming back like we talked about and whatnot. I don't fear how successful this team could be in a tournament run. I still think that this team's going to be a top 5 team in the tournament, regardless of where they finish the season ranked, as long as they stay healthy and they can, continue to develop as a team. But the women's squad, I know this has been kind of a goal of yours for a while, is to get your girls out to a women's hoops game, which you haven't been able to do. Tell them about the post you put out and the response that we got, not only from the women's media marketing team, but just multiple responses on trying to find tickets to go to a women's game.
Yeah, so this all came about because, I always, my girls watch sports with me. That's what we do. Lily's a Bengals fan. Don't know why. She likes the stripes on the helmets. But outside of that, they always want to talk about their Ravens or their favorite color. And Saturdays with the Terps football is like one of their favorite days that there is. They're always excited. They want to keep going to the Terps football games. But when I ask them, well, do you want to play basketball? Do you want to play softball? The answer has been, no, I'm a girl. I'm going to be a cheerleader. I'm going to be a baton twirler, which, by the way, baton twirls are sweet. So if that's what ends up happening, cool. It's
pretty entertaining to watch.
Whatever. It's fine. That's cool.
It's impressive.
So I'm not trying to dissuade them of that, but they just apparently I've failed as a father in showing them that girls can do lots of things. So, they're only 4. I got time. I can fix this. So I wanted to fix it.
Hey, that's all right. Kinley's going to have not an athletic bone in her body, so that's okay.
Yeah, and Lily's got very little chance to make a Power 5 low, but Emma's kind of a hoss. Let's go. So anyway, I put out there, just because when you go on, first thing I did was I went on StubHub, SeatGeek, the normal things, and yeah, you can get tickets for whatever. It's a girls' basketball game in college. You can get $15 tickets that are pretty good, 100, 150 feet off the court. But I'm like, if you can get that for $15, I'm willing to spend some money to make this a really fun day for the girls, get them a little bit closer, kind of the courtside experience that me and Fred had with the guys.
The bar is very high now.
It's so ridiculously better from that level that I'm like, if I can really show them what this is about for a little bit extra scratch, let's see if I can do it. Right. So they don't really; those aren't online. Or at least I can't find them.
You got to know somebody that knows somebody.
So I put out online because we know a lot of Terps people at this point. We're followed by a lot of people, and I just put out, hey, I've kind of failed with my girls. I want to really show them a good time. Emma says she wants to give the team high fives. Who's got a line on really good tickets? Let me know where I can buy them. I wasn't looking for free tickets. Wasn't looking for a handout. I was looking for some booster somewhere to go, hey, I'm not going to make X and Y game. I'll give them to you for $50, $100, whatever that it was, for the tickets. Well, we got all kinds of reaches out. We got reaches out from former players. We got reaches out from Johnny Holiday. We got reaches out from, boosters. Everybody, not a single person tried to sell me their tickets. 5 or 6 people tried to give me free tickets. one of which ended up being women's basketball themselves, has reached
Yeah.
out to the girls. They are hooking us up with 5 tickets. The whole family and Fred are going down for the Ohio State Maryland game. I don't know exactly the situation. I know they asked for the girls' T-shirt size, so it's going to be a little bit more than just tickets. But it's been really cool. They retweeted the tweet, which also helped out Chantal a lot. We gained like 70 followers in a day. And the comments were off the hook, and the people that interact with were completely different. Johnny Holiday,
freaking Holiday.
Responds
Are you kidding me?
to if we to contact me directly and I'll see what I can do. I was like, it's just kind of crazy that the legends that took a look at this.
Well, hey, it's because it's the legend that is Shell and Tell. Come on,
clearly it's me and not my cute ass identical twin girls.
Nah, it's really awesome, man. I mean, can't thank all the fans of the show that chimed in and were willing to give us tickets or give you guys tickets to go. But big shout out to Ellis McKenney for reaching out to us and saying, let me see what I can do. I think he messaged the women's media program, and then they reached out to us. And for them to follow through and do what they did, you can't ask for more than that. I know you guys are super excited. I know the girls are super excited. I'm excited for it. I've never watched a women's basketball game, so I think it'll be a good time for sure.
And I just want to touch on the team a little bit because I know you did. I think that more of this growing pains with them is really the fact that we looked at what they were bringing back their whole team. So why would it not just be the whole team playing again this year? But there's been 2 freshmen playing like insane minutes this year. Like that is a completely different thing. And I think Brenda saw last year that like they boat raced everyone all year. They put up 100 points all the time.
Yeah.
But you got to the tournament and people ran cold and it was over. So I really think that there's more depth focus. I really think there's more growth and development, especially the fact that she knows that like all 5 of those people that came back from next year fall off your roster, plus some. So, like, you need to develop the young team. So I really think that this team's going to be better in March when they actually get down to it, and they've developed their young pieces. They have all the pieces returning. I know they also have an injury issue from last year's, top 5 that has been really nagging them all year. But I think they'll be in really good shape.
It's funny how the tables have turned. Usually I'm the one selling you on depth. You're selling me on depth.
No, you're selling me on the male depth side.
Oh,
which has
okay.
literally never
Sorry.
been true.
I
We've
missed
never
out
had
on
it.
Well, we can't end without mentioning and putting out our condolences and heartfelt wishes to Brenda Fries. She did lose her father, Bill Fries, this past week. Guy who's been involved with the program. Obviously, huge supporter of Maryland basketball, women's basketball, huge supporter of Brenda Fries. So our condolences go out to Brenda and her family on the loss of Bill.
Yeah, definitely condolences to her. She's in that identical twin club, too. She got twin boys.
That's right. All right, fellas, wake up. I know it's been Ryan and I for the last 20 minutes, but it's time for the rundown.
I haven't paid attention to your conversation. I can't bring anything to it. But
Drew even left. He was just like, I'm going to take my potty break.
Yeah, potty break time.
I gotta go give the kids a hug and a kiss goodnight. You can't.
Okay.
It's a late bedtime.
All right, Drew, kick us off with this week's rundown.
Yeah, because last week I had to leave because the kids they're crying. They won't go to sleep without you. Kind of had to do it again. Since I'm the NHL guy, let me bring it up because somehow I lost it. Since I'm the NHL guy, I'm the one that's going to talk about this. It came out, I think it was either at the end of the day yesterday or today, that PK Subban is a black player in the NHL. We know it's kind of few and far between. It's a little bit different of a sport, but he currently plays for the New Jersey Devils. So on Sunday night, he brought up an incident involving an alleged racist taunt aimed at his brother, who's playing for the minor league game in Florida. His name's Jordan Subban. So he's playing for the East Coast Hockey League. The East Coast Hockey League indefinitely suspended Jacksonville Iceman defenseman Jacob Panetta pending a hearing for what Jordan said to Subban during a game. So it's still up in the air. There's no real details of what was said, just that a fellow player threw out a racist taunt at PK's brother, and I think the story of it is like, look, none of us are going to condone that shit.
Right.
There's no place for it in the world in general anyway. And It's just crap. It shouldn't came
That's
up.
part of the bigger problem is when you're talking hockey, you're talking a world league. Like
Yeah.
most of these players are Eastern European, Russian, all the places. So no matter how far you come, the world has to come even further. Like,
Right.
Yes, America's still got our own problems. We got our own, bouts with racism we have to overcome. But there's places a lot worse that are all playing in that league specifically.
Right.
Yeah, but I'd say I know what you're saying, but in this instance, it wasn't a guy from fucking Finland.
Yeah, I don't know anything about
Well,
this, but I'm sure that
I know
they
you
deal
don't.
with it on a
I
whole
get
nother
what you're
level than
saying,
other leagues.
But it's not. It was like it's not a guy that's like it's a completely foreign player.
Also,
you know what
Finland's really upset that you made them the bad guys.
I mean, look, normally it's like Russia. So hey, I mean, there are bad
let's
guys
stick
right
with
now.
our usual villains.
There's just there's so many shitty people in the world, man. Usually you hear these
Period.
kind of stories. It's fans chanting stupid shit like this. You hear it with the Red Sox and the fans up there in Boston. With Adam Jones.
It's happened. It happened. I'll bring the NHL story for it. It's happened for a player that played for the Cavs back in the day.
Yeah.
Like it happens.
Yep.
It's ridiculous that this day and age it still happens. Yes, but it still happens.
So on the NFL news, we know the Buccaneers season is over, which means Tom Brady's season is over. And I know obviously right away after that game ended, all the speculation of whether Tom Brady's coming back, is he's not, what's going to happen. And I've always kind of said, I feel like they're going to have to drag Tom Brady off the field. Like he's just got that like in him that he's going to have to be drug off the field or show that he just can't keep up. And at this point, he's still in the conversation for potential MVP this year. Like the numbers he put up were absolutely absurd. But I will say in his post-game press conference, and part of it was maybe emotion, but I think it was about as real as I've ever heard Tom talk about his family and his life. Like he never really opens up much about his personal life. And he indicated Monday that family's going to actually play a substantial role in determining whether he'll play next year. He's also said that if this is it, he could walk away proud and satisfied, even though the Bucs lost this week. I think as I've gotten older, I think the best part is football is extremely important in my life, and it means a lot to me. And I care a lot about what we're trying to accomplish as a team, and I care a lot about my teammates. But on the Let's Go podcast with Jim Gray, he said the biggest difference now that I'm older is I have kids now too, and I care about them a lot as well. They've been my biggest supporters. My wife has been my biggest supporter. It pains her to see me get hit out there, and she deserves what she needs from me as a husband, and the kids deserve what they need from me as a dad. It's the most real conversation I've ever heard from Tom Brady, again, involving his personal life. So as much as I say, that's going to take them to drag Tom Brady off the field, this opened my eyes a little bit, made me think, maybe the end is here for Tom Brady.
Yeah. James, what do you got?
I have formal Duke and current Buck point guard Grayson Allen. This Sunday, Milwaukee suspended Grayson Allen for one game for his flagrant 2 against Alex Caruso, not Carusi. He's not related. That causes a fractured wrist. So the league punished Allen, who was ejected from the Bucks' 94-90 victory over the Bulls on Friday night after receiving the flagrant 2 foul, was deemed unnecessary and excessive contact, according to news release. Allen's going to serve the suspension against, I think, next
Cavs.
game is Wednesday, tomorrow against the Cavs. So I don't think it's a big deal. But this guy was a prick in college too.
Yep.
He did something.
Real life.
I forget what it was.
Tripping.
Yeah, dirty. Yeah, tripping
All the time.
More than once.
At least
Like every game.
like the Duke.
He was just straight dirty, and Duke has a couple of those. But I'm a big Grant Hill guy. I love the guy, but it's just sad that you have to come to this. I guess you can't just put it in the basket. You have to take people out.
It's funny you mentioned college because I always equated Grayson Allen, talking about their Duke time, Grayson Allen and JJ Redick almost in the same conversation. Like they remind me of the same person. They're both pricks when they were in college. But I will say this. JJ Redick evolved as a person when he got into the NBA. A lot of that bullshit went away with JJ Redick, and I didn't have the same despise for him. I still hate Grayson Allen and despise him just as much in the NBA as I did in college.
I think we might have been the bigger pricks than JJ Redick, to be perfectly honest.
Wow, we were
still,
pricks, so.
I still don't like him, but we were the one, calling his sister, and he was writing poetry and sad,
true.
like whatever.
We had the famous sign, JJ is ridiculous, and the guy, the Terps fan, League A, and next to it. Yeah. So my point, I feel like I'm a little bit compelled to talk during the Grayson Allen segment. Is it, I don't know, it's like slap in the face? Is it bullshit? I know you can't bring up his college career compared to NBA career if this is his first offense. I get it. But dude tripped the guy midair and broke his fucking wrist. Like, is that not worth more than one game?
Yeah, it's definitely worth more than one game.
Completely.
Well,
maybe
considering
you
what in 2019 he had the summer league suspension.
Season?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know like where you draw the line, because how many times do players trip other players but don't end up with a broken wrist? Like, so is it because he had the broken wrist that now you want the severe penalty behind it? I don't know. Tripping is tripping. It just so happened that this one ended really badly. You know what I mean?
Or if I sucker punch a guy and paralyze him, is it any different? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if it's a first-time offense or not.
Fighting in sports is weird.
Not a
no
first-time thing. I just mean
somehow you don't get an assault charge.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
All right. So you talk about drawing a line, right? The MLB writers have drawn a line in the sand, or an apparent line in the sand, when it comes to the Hall of Fame. As Barry Bonds is argued by many to be the greatest hitter in baseball history, potentially worthy of that Hall of Fame vote. In some people's opinion, and Fred, I know you fall on that category. You feel like it's at this point just let him in. But him, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling, all three guys involved in the steroid era, steroid accusations, denials, apologies, whatever you want to call it, all three were denied. It was announced today they did not get the 75% vote that is needed to enter the Hall of Fame. This was their 10th and final year of eligibility. The only way to get in now, I think, is in about another 10 or 15 years. The legends that are I forget what the exact title of them is called, but it's like kind of the
Legends Committee.
The Legends Committee or Legends Panel. They can potentially let one of these guys in, but it has to be, I think, another 10 to 15 years before that can happen. Really, when you look at this vote shows that the mentality has not changed towards the game at all, despite some of the other things that have gone on in the game. This is three top guys that if you don't have
the World Series,
the piece of steroid,
let's not forget there are players in the hall right now that have been accused of using PEDs. Like right now. And not to mention the commissioner whose tenure encompassed the entirety of the steroid era, Bug Selig, he's enshrined himself as well.
All right, let me finish the story before you guys go off.
I mean, what the fuck?
The thing with this is, I get it, Fred. I do. At this point, you have to let some of these guys in. If their numbers warrant it, you've got to let them in. I know that people are going to disagree. There's many. I think the difference between this generation and the other generations with the quote accusations is the fact that there was no formal accusations during play. Right there were from I don't think any of those guys. It was all came after the fact. All of these guys were accused during their tenure in MLB as active players, right? That, I think, is the difference. Again, I don't agree. The numbers speak for themselves. You can take PEDs all you want, but you still have to hit the ball. You still have to make contact. I saw a video this past week with Cal Ripken, and the fact that he was like, I sit on a pitch until I find the pitch that I want. Things like that. You have to make contact. You have to do these things, but it's one of those things that at some point we have to move on, and you thought it was going to potentially be the year. Bonds and Clemens both end up with 66%, and the only guy that gets in, and really just barely, is David Ortiz with 77.9% in that situation. Go ahead, Drew. I know you've been holding your finger up for a while.
That's my fucking problem, because that guy was in the same vein. He wasn't part of the Balco shit, and it came later on. But he has been tied in reports just as much as any of these fucking guys as being linked to steroid use. He has. So
And I'll be honest with you, like,
I don't remember hearing David Ortiz in
bullshit,
that
dude.
same
Come
breath.
on, him and Manny Ramirez was all the same thing. Look it up. He has
Okay, I mean,
He beat a phone with a bat to death, so that sounds like
no.
steroids.
Look it up. He has implicated enough, but it's not along the lines of Barry and Roger Clemens. And I'm trying not to get on a tirade, but it's the bullshit.
You go on a tirade on everything. Go ahead.
I know, but it's the bullshit of the MLB voting for Hall of Fame.
Baseball's gonna baseball.
You have guys literally putting out their Twitter, put it out on their Twitter ahead of like a month ago. We're like, I'm not voting for anybody. You don't have to fucking vote then.
Barry Bonds statistically was a Hall of Famer way before he ever took steroids, before his head swelled 10 times bigger than it was.
He was the only 500 guy before it even happened. Before the
exactly. And not to mention, even with, I get the steroid, like steroids were an era, but it's part of the history of the game. You don't just like exclude things from the Bible because people don't agree with it, right? It's in the Bible. It's written there. This is part of the history. This is part of the story of the game. But point is, this guy hit the
Also
most
not
home
history.
runs in all of Major League history. How do you not have this guy in the Hall of Fame? It's just mind-boggling to me, but this is just another way
They're just old
MLB fucks
old
things up.
That's old people just voting out for no reason.
MLB
I watched
You can mark it with an asterisk. You can tell the story.
Guy.
You can tell the truth to it in the Hall of Fame, however you want to label it and do it. But how do you deny him based on his performance?
Why do grammar nerds have that much power?
That was the point that Jeff Passan came out with today when it came out early, like before it was even announced that Ortiz was like the only member being voted in. He put out a thing about Barry and Clemens, like it's the Hall of Fame. It literally is just like a story of the game.
Right.
You put the guys in, you talk about their accomplishments, no matter how it was accomplished, they still accomplished that goal. And it wasn't the whole career tracked, like you just said. The guy would have been the only 500 guy in the history of baseball, regardless.
Why didn't we take away?
Need to compete and do it that way.
Why didn't the league?
He was a villain enough as it was because he was an asshole.
Why didn't the league take the World Series away from the Astros then?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
but
it's
you're
another
talking
thing
about
of baseball not getting out of its own way.
My argument to that, Fred, is you're talking about the MLB writers versus MLB. There's two different scenarios there. The MLB writers have nothing on paper. I'll put it that in quotes. On paper, have nothing to do with each other. It's an independent
You're silly
organization.
if you believe that.
I did I not say
I know,
quotes?
I'm
Right,
saying.
I said quotes. But my whole thing with this and kind of wrapping it up is I get absolutely where you're coming. The problem is you have the MLB writers that have that doubt. I know that you're saying, hey, look at what he was even before the accusations. But the writer's argument, again, right or wrong, I don't agree with it. Their argument is, was he doing them then? A. And B, would he have done what he did without them? Now, nobody here. If you're going to argue with me on this, I will go toe-to-toe all fucking day long. Nobody here can say that it would have happened if he didn't take PEDs, if he did. We think he did, but
he was a Hall of Famer statistically before PEDs.
When did he start taking PEDs?
Go back and look at the pictures.
No. It's a flat out question.
Would have had
When did he start taking PEDs?
I don't know the year.
He would have had 500 before the whole home run race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Like that's almost a jumping off point. Okay, opinion. I'll say it's an opinion. It's almost a jumping off point because once those guys did what they did, other guys then had to compete.
There's also people that argue that he was doing it.
James got something to chime in on. Go ahead, James.
Real quick, we want to talk about changing roles and all that. They need to change the MLB writers vote these guys in. These are guys that were butthurt because they got cut off their Little League baseball team and became reporters.
Truth.
Never played a fucking game of their life, and they're killing these guys' careers because of a writer, not someone that played, not going to a committee.
They're not even catchers.
Yeah. But you have a guy that writes and watches the game. I'm not voting for him.
So then who makes the vote? Let me ask you that. Who makes the vote?
Other Hall of Famers. Clear.
What do you do in the football?
So then to that extent, Ryan, you're going to have Hall of Famers that, according to them, they never did steroids, and they may be 100% right. But that's their point. My point in saying that is you're going to get this. Fans are split on it, right? Writers are split on it. Players are split on it. There are some players that say, no, if there's any question that you potentially use something that upped your game or upped your level, that you shouldn't be in there. I'm not saying it's right, but you're going to have that. You're going to have that no matter where you
Made
go.
MLB a hell of a lot of money during that time.
Yeah, I watched a lot more.
I guarantee
fans
will vote Barry Bonds in. Fans will vote Barry Bonds in. You know how many people were dying for that ball that he hit to have the most home runs? That stadium was packed. They're voting his ass in. These fucking MLB writers should go sit on a fucking nail and then come talk to me. That's all I have to say.
All right, Drew, finish
it up real quick.
I really don't mean to go on a tirade. I wanted to prove my point to go with what you were saying with you were kind of like Ortiz was never linked to anything. He was in that whole huge Mitchell report thing. It was the same time as Manny Ramirez, who, you know what I mean? Like, that was pretty much confirmed. It was confirmed. And I think the fact of the matter is you got a guy like Clemens and you got a guy like Barry Bonds who, like we were just talking about the shitty voting process. They were assholes. And, oh, it's Big Poppy. Look at his big smile. Oh, yeah, he's beating the fuck out of the phone.
Yeah.
It's funny. You know what I mean? Like, it's a shitty vote way, but I just wanted to point out, like, Ortiz was legitimately linked to steroids. Whether he popped like a test like A-Rod, no, but neither did Bonds or Clemens. They were linked to Balco and then these reports.
If anything,
A-Rod's the guy that literally popped negative on.
I was going to say, I think if anything, I would see that those would be that would be the situation that he was never popped, which is why people are saying that there's link for every one of those other guys that they were popped. Simple as that.
Bonds never peed into a cup and found out that he was positive with steroids. Same with Clemens.
Yeah, he never was.
A-Rod is the only guy amongst that little group, that lower core group, that has ever linked literally by failing a drug test and being suspended for it.
All right, well, I'm just going to power.
It's just like the Black Sox scandal. I'm right.
I'm just going to power through this last topic real quick just so we can get going.
It's not. You can say you're right, but you're not, so it doesn't matter. It's an opinion. It's everybody's opinion.
Ryan already mentioned this a little bit earlier, so I'm just going to make it final. New Orleans Saint head coach for the last 15 years, Sean Payton, decided to step down as coach today. Payton, 58 years old, leaves the Saints with an overall regular season record of 152-89, postseason mark of 9-8, including the Super Bowl that he won in 2006 and the AP Coach of the Year he won that year. He's been in the league, or he's been a coach for them for the last 15 years, like I said, right up there with Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh is in his 14th year, right? So he got hired, I guess, the year before. Ian Rappaport reported Sunday that Payton, who had 3 years remaining on his contract, had not committed to returning to New Orleans after an incredibly difficult and challenging season. This is not the end for Sean Payton. Sean Payton will now he could take I'm going to take a year off, be with the family, relax, kind of like James mentioned earlier. Or, I mean, there's a lot of options out there right now, and some better options than others. You know, I mean, there's a lot of discontent in Dallas right now. Could Dallas make a quick change from a Mike McCarthy to a Sean Payton? I think that'd be a good fit for all parties involved. The Raiders, obviously, they're a shit show looking for a new head coach there, but they did make the playoffs, so they've got a good team. Jacksonville is Jacksonville. Chicago is not real happy with their coaching situation. The Texans are the Texans. So there's a lot of options out there. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up, but do not expect Sean Payton to be out of the league for long. All right, fellas. It was a good show. It was a long show.
Yes.
I guess we'll do a quick after hours. I was going to nix it, but we'll do a quick after hours.
I've got to jump off the after hours. I got to be up early for work, so.
All right, well then, this is it. We're signing off for the night.
Peace.
Scott, sign us out.
All right, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. You guys know where to find us, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, you can check out all of our episodes. Check out the latest Show and Tell episodes that they'll have out. Obviously, you guys are having a new one come up soon. Check out that Chig episode. I did watch that and listen to that. Very good episode. Very good interview for you guys to have on that show. A lot of pop out of that. Make sure you also check out the Birdland BS gear. Get yourself some. You know I'm always sporting it. I don't know about these jokesters, but I always got it on. As always, you can follow us on BigPlay.com and the Big Play app. You can follow us on all of our social media accounts. It's easy to find us at BirdlandBS. And I don't know how you found the show if you didn't find us one of those places. So at BirdlandBS is how you find us. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the notifications while you're there. Make sure you check out the audio version of the show that we have each and every week, posted on all of your Google Play, Android, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are there. Make sure you drop a review while you're there so it makes it easier to find us. As always, again, we appreciate you guys tuning in. For Fred, myself, Ryan, Drew, and James, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
See ya.